In a crowded prison cafeteria, inmates in tan uniforms eat amidst a low, constant murmur. A sharp clack hits the table. He sits down with a grimace. He picks up his first bite.
The man sitting across from him aggressively demands to know why he is staring.
The tattooed man mockingly offers a portion of his meal as a taunt.
A wet thwip sounds as a prisoner spits food directly onto his tray.
The man leans in close, threateningly ordering him to finish every single bite.
The tattooed bully and his accomplice laugh, mocking his expression and lack of manners.
Manabu slams the table, vowing to take revenge on everyone who framed him.
He lunges with a utensil, declaring he will make them suffer as he has.
The tattooed man recoils in shock as he faces Manabu's murderous, intense gaze. He vaults across the table. Blood splatters across the floor.
Celebratory drinks fill the darkroom.
Manabu waits with a hopeful smile. He watches Mio Karasawa sing karaoke, thinking about his long-held feelings and confession plans.
Mio tells him she is heading to the restroom as they exchange quick agreements.
He watches her walk away. He tells himself today is the day. He catches up to her. Mio notices his uncharacteristically serious look and asks him what has happened. Blushing, Manabu finally gathers his courage and asks her to go out with him. She offers a sympathetic smile, but gently rejects him, saying she isn't looking for a boyfriend. She walks away, leaving him stunned. He stares after her in disbelief. He crushes a can in frustration. Empty cans cover the table.
A long, rough gulp escapes as he tries to drown his disappointment in alcohol.
Later, he finds the hallway cordoned off by police and wonders what is happening.
A sudden, firm snap rings out as an officer's hand clamps onto his shoulder.
An officer forcefully arrests him, accusing him of the most heinous crimes imaginable.
Manabu cries out in confusion while the police report they have secured Mio's killer.
He tries to pull away, shouting that these insane accusations are impossible. Horror fills his wide eyes. He spots Mio's lifeless body on the floor and denies the reality of the situation. In a cold courtroom, the judge sentences Manabu Tojo to 30 years in prison.
The victim's family screams in outrage, demanding the murderer pay with his life.
Manabu hangs his head as the crowd calls for his death, feeling their hatred. He sobs that he is innocent, desperately wishing he could wake from this nightmare. His white-haired father stands up, fiercely defending his son's innocence to the court.
The grieving woman and another man lash out at him, refusing to hear his pleas.
Several angry men suddenly rush toward the father with their fists raised. A heavy thud echoes as the white-haired man is struck and falls to the floor. Manabu screams for the violence to stop, heartbroken as he watches his father. Despite the beating, the father promises Manabu that he will find a way to prove his innocence. Prisoners loom over him menacingly. Shadows fill the cramped cell.
The tattooed man stands behind him with a glowing eye as Manabu trembles in fear.
A sharp smack lands as an inmate strikes him for daring to ignore their leader.
In the dark cell, the black-haired Manabu weeps while insisting he was framed for his crimes.
Standing over him, the large tattooed bully questions him with a look of confusion. A sudden heavy thud sounds as a foot slams into Manabu's stomach. He is thrown backward, crashing hard against the cell furniture under the gaze of his tormentors. The tattooed leader asks if he is responsible for the murder, which Manabu desperately denies through his tears. A sharp smack rings out as the brown-haired accomplice kicks him again for his persistent denial. Standing over the cowering man, the brown-haired inmate expresses his disgust and challenges anyone to oppose him. The tattooed bully mocks his complaints and orders the others to string him up. Manabu shouts for them to let him go as two inmates forcefully seize him. A rough creak sounds as thick ropes are pulled tight around his wrists. The brown-haired man prepares a punch, questioning if the prisoner still has the will to resist. Blood spatters as a powerful fist sinks into Manabu's midsection. A series of dull thuds echo as he is subjected to a relentless barrage of blows. The entire group descends upon him, joining in the brutal, coordinated beating. Hanging by his bound arms, Manabu's body goes limp and becomes covered in blood. A wet squelch sounds as the tattooed leader grabs Manabu by the hair to lift his head. He leans in close, issuing a vicious threat about what will happen if he snitches to the guards. Later, Manabu stands in the hallway as a guard approaches him for a conversation. The guard addresses Tojo and delivers the shocking news that his parents were killed in a traffic accident last night. Overwhelmed by grief, Manabu stands in shock as the guard asks about other relatives and mentions financial support. Seeing no reaction, the guard impatiently asks if he is even listening. The officer sighs in disappointment, telling Manabu he no longer cares and orders him to leave. The guards walk away together, casually discussing their plans to go find something to eat. Back in the cafeteria, Manabu stares blankly at his tray of prison food. The brown-haired inmate aggressively demands to know why the bastard is staring at them. The tattooed leader orders him to eat every bite, threatening consequences if any food is left behind. As he looks at the rice, he remembers Mia's rejection of his feelings and his father's promise to prove his innocence despite the beating he took. While being beaten in his cell, he reflects on his suffering and realizes he has nothing left to lose. A sharp creak sounds as he grips his chopsticks with a trembling, rage-filled hand. The word murderer echoes in his mind as he stares at the grinning face of his tormentor. He decides he cannot die yet, his eyes widening with a newfound dark determination. A heavy bang sounds as he slams the table, vowing to take revenge on everyone who was involved in framing him.
He vaults across the table with a roar, declaring his intent to make them suffer as much as he has.
A wet crunch sounds as Manabu's fist connects with the tattooed leader's face. The brown-haired accomplice screams out in shock as his leader is struck down. Driven by madness, Manabu pounces on the fallen man, screaming for him to die. The brown-haired man stands frozen in disbelief as he watches the brutal scene unfold. Manabu's face is cold and devoid of mercy as he stares down at his victim. Terror washes over the blonde inmate as he watches the relentless assault. A flurry of wet thuds sounds as Manabu pummels the leader's head against the floor. Manabu resolves that if he is destined to die, he will ensure he takes his enemy down with him. Blood sprays across the area as the intensity of the violence reaches a breaking point.
The tattooed leader's face becomes a bloody mess under the constant heavy strikes.
Another sickening thud echoes as his head is slammed violently into the concrete. A series of rapid cracks sound as Manabu continues the assault with animalistic ferocity. The bully lies unconscious and bloodied, completely broken by the unexpected retaliation. The brown-haired man finally calls out and rushes toward the scene to stop the violence. A sharp crack sounds as an inmate kicks Manabu away from their fallen leader. The brown-haired man grits his teeth in a fury, cursing at the black-haired prisoner. He watches Manabu with a look of genuine fear, wondering if the man has completely lost his mind. Guards rush into the cafeteria, demanding to know what is going on. A guard forcefully pins the black-haired prisoner to the floor. The officer strikes Manabu, cursing him for causing such a disturbance during his shift. Manabu's eyes glow with an intense, vengeful fury. A guard orders the others to get Goriki to the infirmary immediately and threatens to punish everyone else later. A sudden, loud cry rings out as Manabu is struck again. The guard reacts with a look of pure bewilderment. The officer orders him to be subdued immediately, believing he is trying to take his own life by running into the wall. A group of guards struggles to restrain the desperate prisoner. Manabu is pinned down, his face bloodied and battered.
He lets out a final, agonizing scream.
A steady drip falls from the IV bag.
Lying in a hospital bed, the doctor observes that he has seemingly lost his will to live and has not eaten for days.
The doctor informs a guard that they are administering nutrients, but warns that the man remains in critical danger. A rhythmic sweeping sound echoes as a mop moves across the floor. A white-haired inmate mopping the room tells Manabu that he shouldn't throw his life away. Manabu sits up and watches the old man continue his work. The white-haired man says he has heard about him and asks if he ever considered whether his parents truly died in a mere traffic accident. Shocked, Manabu asks him what he is trying to infer. He lunges forward and grabs the old man's collar, demanding to know how he could possibly have such information. The old man notes that something is always hidden behind the scenes and asks Manabu if he actually killed the young girl. Manabu looks away and firmly denies having committed the crime. The white-haired inmate suggests that his parents were likely eliminated by the real culprit because they found evidence of his innocence. Manabu realizes that his suspicions about the suspicious accident were correct. He wonders who could have done such a thing and for what possible purpose. With tears in his eyes, he resolves that he cannot die until he has avenged his parents.
A knowing, subtle smile crosses the old man's face.
The white-haired man warns him that Goriki has already publicly declared his intention to crush him. Manabu looks down and states that there is always a way to survive.
The old man grins, telling the prisoner that he likes his guts. He offers to lend a hand if Manabu manages to survive Goriki, leading the prisoner to ask what kind of help he means. The white-haired man watches him with a mysterious expression. A sudden sound at the door catches the old man's attention. The old man advises Manabu to read a book in his spare time, claiming the knowledge will eventually prove useful. Manabu watches him walk away before turning his gaze toward the table. He picks up a book titled Human Anatomy and Weak Points. When Manabu asks who he is, the white-haired man identifies himself as Tsuchiya. He tells the younger man that he can simply refer to him as Old Man. A guard enters the hospital room, surprised to find the prisoner awake. The officer aggressively asks why he is reading a book so leisurely. He yells that things have been a complete nightmare because of the chaos the prisoner caused earlier. The guard orders him to get up immediately, sentencing him to a month in solitary and telling him to die there if he wishes. The officer forcefully shoves him into a dark cell, reiterating his death wish. A heavy, metallic bang sounds as the cell door is slammed shut. Standing in the darkness, Manabu clutches the book and resolves that he no longer has any desire to die. Time passes as he trains relentlessly, transforming his body into a peak physical state. Upon his release, the startled guard asks what he was doing in solitary, to which he calmly replies, "Nothing much."
Prisoners perform manual labor under the sun in the yard.
Manabu walks through the yard, unaware that he is being watched from the shadows. A malicious man laughs and announces to the group that Tojo has finally arrived. Manabu stands surrounded by hostile inmates. His eyes glow with dark madness. The large tattooed leader, Goriki, looms over him and reveals he left the hospital early just for him. Pointing to the scar on his face, the leader vows to pay him back 100-fold. He orders his subordinates to attack. Several inmates charge forward with aggression. A quick whoosh sounds as Manabu dodges and counters. Watching from behind, Goriki warns that anyone who slacks off will be beaten up later. Manabu's expression twists with animalistic fury. He lets out a primal roar. A heavy thud sounds as he strikes. A sharp hiss sounds as he pounces with glowing eyes. He maneuvers quickly between his attackers. A wet crunch sounds during the strike. Driven by rage, Manabu screams for them to buy. A loud bang sounds as he attacks. Prisoners watch the rooftop chaos below. Bodies fall through the air together. A wet squelch sounds as he lands. He resolves to crush everyone who tormented and framed him. His gaze burns with intense hatred. Guards rush toward the violent theme.
An officer shouts for the fading.
A guard warns that killing the man he just attacked will result in the death penalty.
Manabus's blood-stained hand trembles violently.
He lets out a final scream. Following the incident, he observes that the way others treat him has changed.
Manabu recovers in the prison infirmary.
A guard informs him that the leader's lower body was crushed, leaving him in a wheelchair for life, and orders no more trouble.
Manabu sighs and agrees to return to the cell. He realizes that no one wants to cross a crazy person who lacks fear.
A rhythmic tap sounds as mocks.
Tsuchiya laughs and agrees with his sentiment. The white-haired man asks if he can create an opportunity, promising to help him escape if he does.
Tsuchiya leans in and instructs him to cause a disturbance in the prison.
Manabu questions whether he can actually trust her.
Tsuchiya points out that a loose sewer grate in the kitchen can be used for escape during a commotion.
The old man challenges him to go take a look if he doesn't believe him.
Former bullies stare in genuine terror.
Manabu returns to his dark cell. He commands the brown-haired man to step forward.
Shaking in fear, the brown-haired man claims it was all a misunderstanding and blames the leader for the bullying.
He expresses relief that the leader was defeated and offers to serve Manabu as his new boss. The other inmates join in, cheering for their new boss. Manabu watches them with cold indifference.
He eats his meal in silence.
A small piece of meat is lifted. The brown-haired inmate offers his own food to the new leader.
Another prisoner offers his meat as well. Manabu looks on with quiet surprise.
Prisoners discuss how Goriki was permanently injured by the newcomer.
Umi-san feels disrespected because the new block leader has not greeted him.
An accomplice suggests recruiting the skilled prisoner instead of starting a fight.
The man promises that the entire block will eventually belong to Umi-san.
His attention is taken by a rhythmic, quick tap sounding.
The thin inmate approaches and asks if the prisoner is Tojo.
He demands to know why Manabu has not shown proper respect to Umi-san. The brown-haired man fearfully whispers that Umi-san is a dangerous threat.
Manabu observes the massive rival leader from across the cafeteria. Umi-san orders his subordinate to teach the cocky newcomer some manners.
A sudden, loud bang sounds as the accomplice slams the table.
Manabu strikes him, stating that he will only understand through physical pain.
Blood sprays as the black-haired prisoner maintains a cold gaze.
Fellow inmates watch the sudden burst of violence in shock.
A heavy thud sounds as the fallen man begs Umi-san for help.
A sharp bang sounds as Umi-san stands up in fury. Tension rises in the cafeteria as the two leaders face off.
Surrounding prisoners stand as the confrontation reaches a breaking point.
A quick, dry cough sounds from a nervous bystander.
The bleeding man screams that he will kill the black-haired prisoner.
Umi-san and Manabu engage in a tense, silent standoff. Umi-san remarks that he has never met anyone as arrogant as him.
A distant guard shouts for everyone to return to their meals immediately.
Umi-san snarls that the prisoner will regret his actions. He declares that they will settle their dispute during tomorrow's break.
The brown-haired man breaks down in tears of terror. He warns that Umi-san will bring all his henchmen to crush them.
Manabu calmly resolves to simply defeat every single attacker at once.
Nearby prisoners react with disbelief to his bold declaration.
A heavy, dull thud sounds in the quiet room. The man apologizes for his cowardice and pledges to stand by his boss.
He lets out a loud rallying cry for his leader.
The inmates cheer and raise their fists for their new boss.
A soft, rhythmic rustling sounds in the dark prison cell.
Manabu meticulously ties a heavy bundle within a blue cloth. He firmly tightens the knot on his makeshift weapon.
Prisoners gather for recreation in the sunlit yard. Officers watch the inmates from behind the barbed wire fence.
A prisoner casually invites a guard to go smoke in a corner. The guards are lured away from their post by the offer.
Umi-san approaches with a malicious grin on his face.
The yard falls silent as the confrontation finally begins.
The brown-haired man urgently alerts his boss that the gang has arrived.
Manabu challenges the group to show him the true extent of their resolve.
The massive leader leads his armed henchmen in a violent charge. A wet crunch sounds as Manabu dodges and delivers a counterstrike.
A heavy, sickening thud sounds during the relentless brawl. A bloodied inmate notices the guards watching from the distance.
An officer reacts as a dropped cigarette falls to the ground. Blood sprays across the yard as Manabu strikes the enemy leader.
Guards blow whistles frantically during the riot. Violent combat erupts throughout the prison yard.
A large, bearded leader watches in shock.
An inmate forcefully grabs a guard car.
The officer shouts that rules are being violated and calls for immediate security backup. Chaos spreads as blood stains the concrete.
The brown-haired inmate searches for his boss. Prisoners wonder where Tojo has gone. The black-haired man slips into the shows.
Tsuchiya urges him to get out of there while the distraction lasts.
The white-haired man tells him to follow closely.
A heavy, metallic screech sounds as he opens a grate.
The black-haired man remains stoic and focused.
They descend together into the dark sewer system. A loud, echoing clang rings through the tunnel. A wet splash sounds as they run through sludge.
Tsuya tells him that it stinks but to bearif it.
Rats scurry past their feet in the kirk.
A heavy, rhythmic sloshing sounds in the sewer.
They reach a set of heavy iron bars. Tsuchiya notes that he has visited this area a few times.
The old man tells him to push the gate hard. Tsuchiya's eyes glow with a lethal, hidden intent.
A sharp squelch sounds of sex. The old man chuckles while betraying his younger companion.
Tsuchiya declares that the mission ends here and offers to grant his death wish.
A dull, heavy thud sounds as he falls.
Tsuchiya watches his victim from behind the bars.
A sudden, firm grip sounds as he's caught.
The old man reacts to a sudden, sharp sound.
Manabu points out the old man's own advice about hidden agendas and strange kindness.
The black-haired man reveals he hid several things on his body just in case. Concealed armor absorbs the impact of the hidden blade.
He declares that he will never trust anyone anymore.
A heavy bang sounds during the aggressive kick. A sharp whoosh sounds as he readies a knife. Manabu mocks the old man, telling him to blame his own naivete if he loses.
A sudden, soft rustle sounds as powder flies.
A wet crunch sounds during the bone-breaking punch.
A sharp hiss sounds as the man screams in agony.
Tsuchiya asks in shock if he prepared lime and when he did so.
Manabu explains he learned about the knife and sulfuric acid plan from an informant. He reveals he has recovered the bottle of poison.
A flashback shows him retrieving the bottle during their time together. The old man's face twists with pure, murderous rage. Tsuchiya lunges forward with a final, desperate roar. A heavy thud sounds as the strike lands. Manabu delivers a final, devastating blow to his opponent. Tsuchiya admits that he was certainly the naive one. Manabu resolves to never repeat the same mistake again.
Tsuchiya expresses regret at being defeated by someone like him.
A sharp squelch sounds as blood sprays from his leg.
A wet sizzle sounds as Manabu pours the sulfuric acid over the old man's body.
A loud splash sounds as the black-haired man emerges from the sewer exit. He walks away from the dark tunnel toward the horizon. Manabu deeply inhales, noting the fresh scent of freedom.
A soft rustle sounds as he reveals slabs of raw meat bandaged to his torso.
He discards his bloodied prison clothes and the meat into the river, vowing to seek revenge.
An employee welcomes the white-haired officer and asks if he is still searching for the convicts. The officer explains they are fully mobilized because the escaped convict remains at large.
The cook questions whether there were 2 escaped convicts.
The guard notes the young one's body was found charred while the habitual offender is still missing.
Back in the sewer, a faint sizzle sounds as Manabu stands over a blackened corpse.
A quiet sizzle sounds from the charred prison identification jack.
The cook expresses pity over the tragic death of the younger escapee.
Another officer dismisses the tragedy, stating the man was a criminal who brought it upon himself.
The officer remarks that the parents stole an autopsy report to prove their son's innocence. Manabu realizes the importance of the report and resolves to find it. A soft scuff sounds as the man in the black cap stands up. The officer calls out to the young man. Manabu turns slightly to look back at the table. The guard warns him to stay indoors because of the dangerous escaped convict. Manabu calmly acknowledges the warning before leaving. A rhythmic click sounds as a blonde waiter walks down the street. Manabu follows the man silently from a distance.
The blonde man wonders what he should eat for dinner.
A sudden sharp whoosh sounds as a knife is held to his throat.
Terrified, the waiter claims he has no money and is just a part-timer.
Manabu demands to know who ordered him to frame Gaku Tojo while the waiter asks if he's Tojo's buddy. The waiter warns that Manabu should let go unless he wants his limbs broken like Yuji Suzuki.
A wet crunch sounds as Manabu stabs the man's leg, demanding to know who hurt Yuji.
Manabu demands to know who forced him to give false testimony. The blonde man insists the mastermind is someone Manabu cannot handle. A sharp squelch sounds as he delivers another painful strike.
Manabu gives the man one final chance to answer his questions. The waiter reveals Rei Amano paid and threatened him to give false testimony.
He explains that she was Mio's best friend and must know the truth. Manabu asks where to find her, and the man directs him to a nightclub. The man pleads for his life as Manabu drags him away.
A heavy thud sounds as the tied-up man is dropped near a well.
A muffled groan sounds as tape is placed over the man's mouth.
Manabu tells him to stay quiet in the well until everything is settled.
A dull bang sounds as the man is kicked into the dark well.
Manabu warns that the man will starve if something happens to him at the club.
A soft crackle sounds as a bandaged man drinks alone by a fire.
He recalls protecting Manabu from bullies when they were children. Yuji resolves to find the truth and prove his friend's innocence.
A quiet sigh sounds as he slumps over in despair. Manabu watches the neon lights of the nightclub from the shouse. No discernible narrative content detected.
The large man lets out a loud, booming laugh while walking with his companion.
She bows politely and invites the customer to return for an even better experience next time.
Checking her watch, she notes that it is finally time to end her shift.
Manabu shadows her silently as she walks down the dark city street. He readies a sharp knife as he closes the distance behind her.
She answers a phone call about meeting at a usual spot, unknowingly forcing Manabu to hesitate and hide his weapon as she walks away.
He watches from the shadows as she enters a business called Net Paradise.
Inside, she is intercepted by 3 men in gray suits in a building Manabu identifies as being run by a thug named Hiroto Kagami.
Realizing time is short before the owner arrives, he decides to seize his only opportunity and enters the building. Ray remarks that someone took too long to arrive, mistakenly assuming the man entering the room is her expected visitor.
She turns around and demands to know his identity and how he gained access to the private room.
He suddenly and forcefully seizes her arm before she can react. Manabu holds a blade to her throat and commands silence before revealing his face, which leaves her trembling as she recognizes that he is still alive. He aggressively questions why she chose to frame him, but she counters by asking if he truly believes she had the resources to coordinate such a plan. She explains that the massive cost of bribing 7 witnesses and other officials was over 10 million yen, arguing that a hostess living in a cafe could never afford such a conspiracy. She claims the true mastermind is untouchable and urges him to flee immediately before Hiroto arrives and traps him in the room. Facing a lethal threat, she finally confesses that a man named Koki Yoshida was responsible, a name Manabu repeats in quiet contemplation. Manabu wonders about the motive behind Koki Yoshida's involvement as he processes the new information.
Men in the hallway announce that the woman is waiting inside as Manabu continues his tense interrogation.
She insists she has told him everything and begs him to stop his pursuit and get out while he still can.
He demands she choose a side in his quest for revenge while she begins writing on a piece of paper. She hands him a note and promises a full explanation later if he agrees to leave right now.
He accepts the contact information, but warns her that any attempt to betray him will be met with no mercy.
A man in a pink suit and his guards pass Manabu in the hallway.
The man in the pink suit pauses and looks back at the stranger with a suspicious expression.
Hiroto Kagami finds Manabu's face familiar and questions the marks on his neck, which Manabu dismisses as a necklace accident before moving on.
Later, he lies alone in a dimly lit room, lost in his thoughts. A memory shows Mio drinking with a man while other companions socialize nearby.
In happier times, Mio and Rei enjoyed karaoke and toasted to their friendship.
The scene shifts to the couple walking away from the table together during that night.
Manabu makes a call from a public phone booth as the busy city moves around him.
He contacts his target to arrange a secret meeting at the Riverside Park later that night. Rei agrees to the meeting over the phone while her employer pressures her to continue singing.
Night falls as Rei arrives at the quiet, illuminated Riverside boardwalk. He watches her from behind a tree, remaining unseen as she waits for him.
Manabu steps forward and demands the truth about the exact circumstances of his parents' deaths.
She explains that his parents had obtained the original autopsy report and were planning to file for a legal retrial.
She reveals that Yoshida murdered them in a staged accident because he was terrified the contents of the report would be made public.
She breaks down in tears and apologizes for the tragedy as a gruesome memory of the crime scene lingers.
He violently strikes her across the face, declaring that her apologies are worthless after everything he has lost.
He demands to know the specific contents of the report and how Mio actually died.
She tearfully reveals that the report found evidence of 3 different attackers, but confirmed that he was not among them, proving his innocence was buried to protect the real criminals.
She explains that while Mio initially went with Yoshida and his wealthy friends for money, they treated her as nothing more than an object.
In a memory, Yoshida hands over a massive bribe and orders that his friends be shown a good time for the night.
Mio asks what they have planned, seemingly unaware of the extreme danger she is in.
She describes how they forced lethal doses of drugs on Mio until she died right in front of them.
The men in the memory recklessly distribute drugs while looming over their helpless victim.
One man forcibly administers the substances to the woman against her will.
He taunts her and demands a reaction as the drugs begin to take their toll on her body.
The perpetrators panic as they realize she has stopped moving and is no longer responsive.
Men panic as their victim stops breathing.
Manabu demands to know why Rei framed him.
Rei explains his false confession fit their script.
She tearfully claims Yoshida threatened to kill her.
Manabu resolves to crush Yoshida at any cost.
Rei warns of the bodyguards protecting Yoshida.
She begs him to flee for his life.
Manabu warns her not to interfere with him.
He commands her to follow him to safety.
Manabu refuses to release her until things settle.
He demands she hand over her smartphone immediately.
Rei screams as she is suddenly thrown down.
She accepts her imprisonment as a deserved punishment. Yoshida dances with a companion in a club.
He suggests they move to a private area.
She smiles at his bold and forward request.
Yoshida orders his security to wait outside alone.
Manabu decides to take this risky opportunity now.
A guard stops him, but Manabu dismisses him.
The guard stares him down with intense suspicion.
He eventually permits the stranger to move forward. A pained shout echoes as Manabu enters Awone.
Manabu draws his weapon and warns of interference.
A heavy thud sounds as he kicks Yoshida. Startled, Yoshida demands to know his attacker's identity.
Manabu lunges forward with focused and lethal intent.
A woman screams as blood sprays from Yoshida.
Yoshida clutches his bleeding neck in sudden shock.
Manabu follows up with another aggressive, powerful strike.
He pins the target with a blade held high.
Recognition dawns as guards rush in to help.
Manabu vaults over the stalls to evade pursuit.
He lands quickly and prepares for a gawe.
A loud crash sounds as he breaks through glass.
Yoshida offers a bounty for his attacker's capture.
Manabu sprints through the dark and narrow alleys.
Pursuers miss him as he hides among baggage.
He worries his blown identity is wasted time.
Manabu resolves that one final chance still remains.
A black car pulls up to Roundtown.
Officers confirm the identity of the violent assailant.
Yoshida vows to personally execute his mortal enemy.
Rei and Yuji wait together at the well. They look up as a shadow descends above. Manabu drops into the well with a bag.
Rei asks if he succeeded in killing Yoshida.
Yuji crawls forward, desperately begging for clean water. He greedily gulps down the water Manabu provided. Manabu looks up toward the distant night sky.
He orders them silent under threat of death.
Manabu vows that their next encounter will mark the end for his adversary.
Koki Yoshida reveals he has captured Suzuki and asks if Manabu wants to join him.
Yoshida proposes a deal for Manabu to surrender quietly in exchange for Suzuki's release. Manabu offers to trade the captives he holds for his friend's freedom.
A mocking laugh echoes as Yoshida revels in the desperate situation. Manabu claims a copy of the autopsy report survived and can prove Yoshida's guilt.
Yoshida dismisses the claim as a bluff, questioning why he didn't report it sooner.
His face contorts with sudden fury as he demands to know Manabu's true goal.
Manabu demands his name be cleared, expressing a desperate desire to survive.
His eyes burn with cold determination as he continues the high-stakes negotiation.
Yoshida offers money and protection for the evidence, insisting on an immediate in-person meeting.
Rei frantically signals her disapproval of the dangerous plan from the background.
She screams a warning that meeting Yoshida is nothing short of a suicide mission.
Tossing the phone aside, he tells his captives they are free to do as they wish.
Rei desperately grabs his arm, pleading with him not to walk into a certain death trap.
Later, he visits a shop and decides to purchase a new set of clothes.
As he walks away, a confused chef wonders what happened to his missing kitchen knife.
He purchases 2 bottles of whiskey to prepare for the long night ahead.
A soft crackle sounds as he sits by a fire, sharpening his stolen blades. He stands and moves away from the warmth, fully prepared for the coming conflict.
A dull thump sounds as he drops to his knees before the city skyline. He prays for his parents' strength and vows to join them once his revenge is complete. He looks out over the snowy city, steeling himself for the final confrontation.
Armed guards stand ready as snow begins to blanket the mansion's entrance.
Manabu approaches the hostile group alone, showing no fear despite the overwhelming odds. Yoshida watches from above with a smug, self-assured expression on his face.
He orders his men to ensure that the intruder does not leave the grounds alive.
A heavy thud sounds as a guard kicks the captive Suzuki toward the newcomer. The guards close in, surrounding Manabu as he prepares to make his move.
Yoshida mockingly invites him inside to escape the cold and settle their business. A loud creak sounds as the massive doors are thrown open for the guest.
Manabu stands his ground and demands Suzuki's release before he will agree to enter.
With a dismissive wave, Yoshida signals for his men to comply with the demand.
Another pained grunt sounds as the injured Suzuki is shoved roughly across the floor.
Yoshida boastfully declares himself a man of his word while looking down at them.
A subordinate questions if releasing their captive will cost them their only leverage.
Yoshida scoffs, noting that Suzuki's injuries will prevent any chance of a clean escape.
Suzuki is shocked to see his friend alive, but Manabu urges him to leave quickly.
Suzuki warns him that entering the mansion is a trap filled with armed goons.
Manabu shouts for Yoshida to let his friend go so he can enter the building.
He urges Suzuki to survive for his family and remember him after everything is over.
Suzuki is dragged away, shouting in protest as Manabu prepares for the final battle.
A rhythmic tapping sounds as Yoshida descends the grand staircase toward his best.
A sharp whoosh sounds as blades are drawn the moment Manabu enters the room.
His eyes glow with a lethal predatory light as he faces his mortal enemy.
He stands tall between the massive guards, refusing to be intimidated by their size.
Yoshida demands to know if he brought the evidence he used as a bargaining chip.
Manabu retorts that he would never bring something so vital into such a dangerous place. Enraged, Yoshida yells for him to stop playing games and face his inevitable fate. A collective metallic ring sounds as the guards raise their weapons to strike at once.
Manabu holds up 2 bottles of whiskey and mockingly suggests that they should not be so tense and have some fun. Koki Yoshida looks down at him and asks what this is about and if the booze is a gift for him. He tightly grips the 2 bottles of whiskey.
A sharp click sounds as heavy shoes step firmly onto the marble floor.
A large, older man in glasses stands framed in the doorway with several silhouettes behind him. Shocked to see his father, Koki Yoshida asks him why he has arrived at the mansion.
His father stares ahead coldly and asks who else but him is going to clean up his son's mess.
A dull thud sounds as guards roughly throw the bound and gagged Suzuki and Amano onto the floor.
The captives struggle against their gags while being watched by the scarred security guard. The older man orders that if he is going to do it, he must be thorough and leave no trace, prompting Koki to ask if he means to eliminate everyone involved, including Amano. He tells Koki he is naive to think Amano is loyal and reveals she is the one who leaked the autopsy report to the parents.
Manabu stands in the background and listens as the source of the leak is finally revealed.
A sharp smack sounds as a powerful strike lands against the bound woman's face.
Koki yells that she betrayed him after all the money he gave her and strikes her again with focused rage.
She stands up and defiantly claims that while she sleeps with anyone, her heart isn't rotten and she couldn't stand seeing the searching parents anymore. A heavy thump sounds as Koki kicks her to the ground, yelling for her to shut up and vowing to bury her with his enemy.
The older man asks if he is Manabu Tojo, and Manabu retorts by asking if he was put through everything only for the man to not even know his face.
The older man smiles cruelly and declares that he has no need to know people who are worth less than insects.
He looks down from the stairs and demands to know the current location of the copy of the autopsy report. Manabu stares back at the older man with cold and unwavering determination. The older man gives a subtle signal to his elite security team to prepare for an attack.
He boasts that the forces backing him are far beyond anything his opponent could possibly imagine.
He declares that no matter where the report is, once the intruder is dead, everything will finally be over.
He pauses for a moment as snow begins to fall, preparing to deliver a final revelation.
He identifies the men surrounding Manabu as the ones who are actually responsible for killing his parents.
Rage boils over as Manabu's eyes widen at the sudden and horrific revelation.
His bandaged hand trembles with a lethal and uncontrollable fury as he prepares to strike.
He screams Manjiro Yoshida's name as he reaches his absolute breaking point.
He raises the whiskey bottles high and prepares to launch his desperate assault. A violent crash sounds as he smashes the whiskey bottles across the marble floor. A pained yell echoes as a guard loses his footing on the suddenly slick liquid. A heavy thud sounds as the guard falls face first into the spreading spill. He struggles to regain his balance on the treacherous and oily floor. Manabu seizes the opening and slashes through the neck of an enemy as blood sprays into the air.
Koki realizes the liquid is oil and screams that his attacker is nothing more than a coward.
A wet squelch sounds as Manabu drives a blade into a fallen guard's throat with lethal intent.
Koki orders his men to swarm the intruder while another guard falls to a deep and bloody slash.
Blood stains the marble floor as multiple guards lie dead or dying in the oil.
Manabu weaves through the chaos with practiced and lethal precision.
He moves with a sudden and blinding speed to avoid the remaining attackers.
He executes a high-speed flip to evade the blades of the surrounding guards.
He lands in a low crouch, blood dripping from his stolen kitchen knives as he adjusts his sunglasses.
Koki yells for his men to kill the show-off immediately as he watches from a distance.
More guards charge forward with their weapons raised to strike the intruder down at once.
Manabu tenses his muscles and prepares to face the next wave of incoming attackers. A sharp hiss sounds as he throws a blinding powder into the eyes of the advancing men.
He grips his weapon tightly as the snow-like powder fills the air around him.
The guards scream in agony as they are blinded and helpless against the sudden maneuver.
A wet slash sounds as Manabu cuts through the defenseless men with a single powerful motion. He turns back toward his target, his eyes glowing with a terrifying and red bloodlust.
Tojo wears a dark, menacing smile. A sudden, sharp splash of blood. 3 men brace in the smoke.
Tojo looms over his suit-clad opponents.
Koki clutches his head in Tedek. The older man with glasses barks orders at Koki to quickly retrieve the alcohol. He explains that alcohol is the only way to wash away the burning quicklime. The tattooed woman watches the fire. Koki snarls at the woman as she desperately clings to his leg to stop him. With a heavy thud, he kits.
Bleeding and broken, the woman silently resolves that this sacrifice is the least she can do. Armed guards advance to target.
Tojo stands tall amidst defeated broads.
Guards wash their eyes of alcohol.
The older man warns his men of the slippery floor, viewing Tojo as a cornered target.
Guards reform their line for assault.
A guard leaps forward with an ant.
Tojo counterpins his attacker with force.
A sinister grin spreads across his face.
The remaining guards continue their march.
With a fierce rah, Yuji tackles.
Yuji delivers a powerful high kick.
A guard winds up to strike. Tojo clamps onto a guard's face.
A brutal impact sprays fresh blood. Koki expresses his bitter regret, cursing himself for not killing Tojo sooner.
Tojo remains the storm's calm eye.
Torn sleeves reveal hidden metal horror. Another guard is sent flying backward.
Koki threatens to finish the injured Yuji, but Yuji defiantly welcomes the challenge.
Tojo casts a cold sidelong glance.
A heavy punch connects with impact.
Enemies pour into the fray relentlessly. Tojo calmly asks if they need a light while flicking open his metal lighter.
Tojo tosses a flame toward enemies.
Alcohol ignites, consuming the attackers instantly. Koki kicks Yuji in the chest.
Koki raises his blade to kill.
Tojo intervenes with a lightning kick.
Crumpled on the floor, Koki gasps in disbelief at his sudden and total defeat. Tojo presses his foot into Koki's head, coldly demanding any final words before the end. The older man takes a hostage. He pulls her head back roughly. Koki pathetically begs for mercy, but Tojo invites him to try and resist one last time. Desperate, Koki offers money and promises to clear Tojo's name, while his father attempts to negotiate a truce. The father threatens a merciless response if his son is harmed, but Tojo remains completely unfazed.
The woman urges Tojo to kill them all, while the older man focuses solely on saving Koki. Koki promises to fetch gold bars and cash, his cowardice fully exposed as he bargains for his life. Koki scrambles up the marble stairs.
The older man tells them to take the payout and leave, declaring their conflict at an end.
Split panel. Tojo glares intensely while Amano is held by her hair. A brutal punch from Yoshida sends Amano reeling backward. Wish! Tojo delivers a lethal slash to the older man's throat as blood sprays. Yoshida collapses to the floor, clutching his bleeding neck. Amano looks on with a silent, tearful sense of relief.
Tojo helps Amano stand as her captor lies dead nearby.
Amano warns of hidden guns as Koki loads his weapon, vowing to kill everyone.
Koki sprints down the marble stairs, clutching a heavy black bag.
Shock freezes Koki as he discovers his father's lifeless body. Koki rages at Tojo for breaking their deal and murdering his father.
A voice yells, "Over here!" as Koki turns toward a partition.
Bang! Koki fires his handgun repeatedly at the source of the noise. The distraction is revealed as a phone recording near two bound guards. A smartphone plays the looped recording on the blood-spattered floor. Wish! Tojo seizes the opening, severing Koki's hand with a single swift strike. A powerful kick sends the maimed Koki flying across the hall. Tojo pins his defeated enemy to the ground with overwhelming force. Koki demands to know why Tojo killed his father, calling him a traitor. Tojo vows to finish the family to honor his own parents' memory.
A final lethal strike ends Koki's life on the cold tile. Tojo stands victorious as Amano tends to the injured Yuji.
Clatter! Dropping his blade, Tojo tearfully declares his parents have been avenged.
Tojo orders Amano to take Yuji to safety while he stays behind. Snow falls as the weary duo departs the scene of chaos.
Amano and Yuji cast a final worried glance at the mansion.
Tojo emerges with a bag of cash and gold, urging them to head. Amano is stunned, confessing that she had previously betrayed him.
Tojo offers forgiveness, but Yuji questions why he isn't joining them.
Yuji grips Tojo's arm, vowing to stay even if it means prison.
Tojo presents an envelope claiming he has a solo plan for survival.
Amano reacts with dread, realizing the dangerous nature of his intent.
Tojo asks for trust, promising to return alive after one final night.
Amano struggles against Yuji, refusing to let Tojo fight alone again. Yuji insists they must have faith in Manabu and stay out of his way. Tojo watches silently as his allies disappear into the snowy night.
Amano and Yuji find shelter beneath a dark stone bridge.
Amano speculates the documents prove the corruption of the city's elites. Amano explains Yoshida likely used his police rank to obtain the evidence. Yuji fears for Tojo's life and tries to rush to his aid.
Amano restrains Yuji, arguing that Tojo's plan is his only chance.
Amano believes Manjiro was an eyesore to the elite, making a deal possible.
A scandalous photo reveals a tattooed man in a compromising position.
Now dressed in a suit, Tojo prepares for his next encounter. Tojo walks toward a grand traditional-style gate under the night sky.
The rhythmic sound of footsteps echoes as Tojo ascends the stairs.
He approaches the guarded entrance of a massive private estate. Guards block his path, but Tojo firmly demands to see Mr. Brada. A guard refuses him entry, stating the boss is already resting.
Tojo stares back defiantly, insisting the meeting must happen immediately.
A scarred enforcer cracks his knuckles, asking if Tojo seeks his own death.
Tojo reveals Manjiro's severed head, leaving the guards in total shock as they demand to know his plan.
The sweating guard panics and tells the intruder to wait there. An authoritative voice commands the guards to let the man through.
Tojo walks into the courtyard as more suit-clad guards observe him.
Goda sits calmly while a woman in a white dress pours him tea.
Lifting his cup, the bald man asks if he is indeed Tojo. The black-haired man asks if his identity is already known. Goda explains that Manjiro's presence with a severed head confirms everything, prompting Tojo to ask for his life to be spared.
Angered, Goda slams his hand down and questions why he should help the man who killed his subordinates. The surrounding guards watch the tense negotiation in silence.
Tojo challenges Goda to kill him now if his men truly mattered or otherwise listen to his proposal.
Goda finds him interesting and demands a reason to let him live. Tojo holds up an envelope offering a deal for his survival.
The woman in the white dress reaches out to take the envelope. She carries the documents toward Goda as Tojo stands in midst.
Goda dismisses the threat, but Tojo points out the higher-ups would care about the evidence of their crimes. Goda suggests murder as a solution.
Looking unimpressed, the boss claims Tojo isn't even on his level.
Tojo claims he has nothing left to lose and states the evidence will be sent to the police by midnight if he fails to return.
Goda continues pouring tea while asking what this threat has to do with him.
Tojo explains that since he was last seen at this estate, Goda would be framed as the mastermind behind Manjiro's murder.
Pausing, Goda realizes Tojo didn't come for help, but to drag the boss down with him.
Tojo offers a final choice: help him and profit from the evidence, or refuse and be destroyed together.
Goda laughs heartily, finding the boy's audacity reminiscent of his own youth.
Tojo drinks deeply from a small bottle. Goda agrees to fix the situation on the condition that Tojo enters his service starting today.
Tojo pledges his devotion. Goda orders Muto to clean up the murder scene and tell the police to back off.
Muto bows and confirms he understands his words. Goda tells the woman to treat Tojo well and ensure he stays the night.
Tojo repeats his midnight warning, but Goda tells him to drop the act, knowing it was a bluff.
Acknowledging he was seen through, Tojo smiles as the boss walks away.
The black-haired woman begins to slip off her dress.
Tojo approaches the woman as she waits on the edge of the chop. Tojo gently drapes a robe back over her shoulders.
Tojo rejects the woman's advances, stating he is far too exhausted and wants to be left alone.
Tojo finally finds a moment to relax in a hot bath. Smoking a cigar, Goda notes that Tojo is extraordinary for being able to suppress his desires at such an age.
The woman asks if she should continue to monitor their new best.
Goda plans to keep his guard up and find Tojo's weakness before fully turning him into a pawn.
Tojo sits up quickly as he awakens. Morning arrives as the woman attends to Tojo, who thanks her and prepares to leave. She tells him there is no hurry and asks him to watch the news. A news anchor reports on the fire and the deaths of the Yoshida family members.
The woman tells him his worries are over and urges him to stay and enjoy himself.
She reaches out for him and asks for his name.
Tojo politely declines Miss Ayame, insisting that he still has unfinished business to attend to.
Tojo walks toward the bridge where his weary allies are waiting. Amano cries out in joy and rushes to embrace Tojo. She tells him she knew he would survive while the injured Yuji Lakan. Tojo looks at his friends and declares that they are finally free from their pursuers. She weeps while embracing her savior.
A dilapidated apartment building stands tall.
A vibrant feast covers the table.
Surprised by the delicious meal, the man in green notes the girl's unexpected talent. Holding a spatula, the woman explains she has fended for herself since childhood and can manage basic tasks.
The trio shares a quiet drink.
Holding her glass, the brown-haired woman asks Tojo about his future intentions.
Tojo suggests using their stolen funds to establish a legitimate small business.
The man in green jokingly asks if this means they will all be executives now.
Smiling warmly, the woman promises to support whatever path Tojo chooses.
The man in green asks if she intends to return to her former nightclub job. She admits her difficult past supported her brother's illness, but declares she is ready for a fresh start.
They raise their glasses in celebratory toast.
The injured man snores on the sofa.
Tojo stares at the ceiling and bot.
Dressed in a long shirt, the woman explains her homelessness and asks to stay with them.
Tojo offers her the bed while he takes the floor, mentioning the limited sleeping arrangements. Placing a hand on his back, she suggests they share the bed together despite the cramped quarters.
Walking down the street, the man in green asks if the woman is moving in permanently. Tojo confirms her situation and notes they will need to purchase additional furniture soon.
The man in green remarks that their current cash reserves should provide long-term security. Menacing tattooed thugs pass by them. Stopping in his tracks, the blonde thug asks if they are the targets. Seeing trouble, the man in green urges Tojo to leave the scene immediately.
The blonde thug mocks the injured man's recovery, suggesting they didn't beat him enough last time.
Defiant, the man in green insists he did nothing and tells the bully to back off. Getting into their personal space, the thug threatens to pulverize the man in green on sight.
The blonde thug slaps Tojo and mockingly asks the bastard if he has a problem.
Boom! Tojo responds with a bone-shattering punch to the thug's face. The impact sends the thug reeling.
Blood spatters across the pavement.
Clutching his bleeding mouth, the thug snarls at the audacity of the attack. Tojo unbuttons his shirt, revealing his scarred torso.
The sight of Tojo's brutal scars silences the surrounding crowd.
Panicked, the leader screams for his subordinates to attack the lone man.
Wish! The thugs charge forward together! Tojo waits calmly for the assault.
He effortlessly ducks a wild swing.
Boom! A single strike slams an attacker face first into the concrete.
Tojo prepares to counter another blow. He catches the incoming fist easily.
Thwack! A knee to the ribs drops the second attacker instantly. The leader's bravado turns to fear.
Backing away, the bruised leader admits their mistake and pathetically tries to negotiate.
Tojo seizes the man's jaw kegly. He stares with a killer's eyes.
The man in green restrains Tojo, reminding him that a murder would destroy their new stability.
As they walk away, the wounded thug spits a final, desperate threat. The thugs warn of their boss Kuro's impending revenge, but Tojo coldly invites the challenge. The man in green explains that Kuro is a dangerous underworld figure controlling local businesses.
The black-haired man suggests fighting Kuro to take the area while his friend notes his startling personality change.
The short-haired man in the green shirt mentions 2 others he helped and leaves to call them.
A quiet bird's-eye view of a desolate industrial area reveals the staging ground for the upcoming conflict.
2 rough-looking men wait outside. One smokes a cigarette while a much larger man eats a snack.
The black-haired man skeptically observes the duo, doubting their usefulness in a serious physical altercation. His short-haired companion insists that despite appearances, these are men who can be fully trusted. Drawing on his cigarette, the man in the cap asks Yuji to identify their specific opponent.
Yuji clenches his fist and identifies their target as the man known as Kuro-san.
The 2 new recruits are visibly startled by the mention of the notorious name Kuroki.
The black-haired man warns them of the group's size, offering them a chance to back out if they are afraid.
The man in the cap dismisses the idea of fear, claiming he has wanted to settle things with Kuroki for a long time.
Clasping his hands together, the large man agrees that he was waiting for the opportunity to strike back.
The black-haired man silently notes the impressive courage of Yuji's friends as they prepare to move.
He acknowledges their spirit but cautions that raw courage alone isn't enough for a small group to win.
A sharp screech sounds as a white van speeds down a road with its headlights blazing.
A group of armed men piles out of the van, ready for a coordinated ambush.
A muscular man with a chest tattoo and sunglasses asks his underlings if they've arrived at the correct location. The scarred blonde man confirms they have arrived, reporting that the targets have been there since his daytime scouting.
Looking around the corner, the tattooed leader asks for the exact number of opponents they are facing.
The scarred man reports 5 people, warning that the leader is a dangerous ex-convict and a total psychopath.
Flashing a sinister grin, the tattooed man boasts that his own time in prison makes him the bigger psycho.
Through a small window, the enemies are seen charging toward the hideout with wooden bats in hand.
The black-haired man and his group stand ready as the hostile force approaches their door. The man in the cap hides atop a tall bookshelf, preparing a surprise for the intruders.
A heavy bang sounds as the door is kicked open with violent force.
The 2 groups face off in the middle of the room as the tension reaches its peak.
The tattooed leader looks down at the black-haired man and asks if he is the one who took out his men.
He laughs maniacally and shouts for his enemies to bring everything they have.
2 of the intruders charge forward with their bats raised high while their leader watches from behind.
From his perch on the bookshelf, the man in the cap tips over a bucket, dumping white powder over the attackers.
A heavy splashing sound follows as the attackers are blinded by the falling substance, much to their leader's fury.
The man on the shelf keeps his grip as he looks down at the chaos below.
A loud thud sounds as a powerful kick sends one of the shirtless attackers flying backward.
With a cocky smirk, the man with the cap pulls the rope to reset his makeshift trap.
The bucket swings back through the air, ready for another round of disruption.
Another drenching splash hits the attackers as they struggle to maintain their footing in the chaos.
Frustrated by the unorthodox tactics, the tattooed leader growls that they are using cowardly tricks to fight.
The black-haired man seizes the moment, grabbing an attacker by the throat while his allies provide cover.
A pained scream erupts as the black-haired man slams his opponent down with overwhelming strength.
The scarred blonde man wipes his mouth, complaining that their opponent's methods are far too dirty.
Standing tall, the black-haired man retorts that they are simply practicing the philosophy of an eye for an eye.
A heavy crash sounds as the blonde man is sent sliding across the floor after a decisive blow.
The intruders lie defeated and scattered across the tile floor as the black-haired man stands victorious.
The tattooed leader calls him a gutless bastard and vows to kill him, but the black-haired man simply invites the challenge.
Surprised by the bravery, the leader agrees to a one-on-one duel and warns his subordinate to stay back. A rhythmic snap sounds as the leader rips his shirt open, revealing a massive tiger tattoo on his chest. The 2 leaders charge at each other in the center of the room as water continues to drip from above. The black-haired man ducks under a powerful swing, looking for a precise opening to strike.
A dull thud sounds as a perfectly timed punch lands square on the tattooed leader's jaw.
The black-haired man reaches out and firmly grabs his opponent's arm, locking him in place for the finish.
Grrr! Tojo struggles with all his might against the crushing grip.
Kuro locks Tojo into a punishing and lethal chokehold.
"Don't you guys interfere! This one is mine!" Tojo screams at his nearby allies.
Amano pensively realizes that Tojo must win this by himself to truly rule the area.
"I'll send all of you to hell," Kuro declares with a wide and terrifying grin.
Gah! Tojo grits his teeth as he strains against the overwhelming pressure. A vision of his lost loved ones reinforces Tojo's lethal resolve.
"Are you sure you don't want to call for backup?" Yuji asks a worried Amano.
"A shrimp like you thinks he can beat me? In your dreams, asshole!" Kuro sneers.
Shh. Tojo adjusts his stance and firmly finds his balance on the floor.
"This bastard!" Tojo yells as he manages to throw his massive opponent backward.
Whish! He winds up a powerful punch with focused and lethal intent.
Thud! A perfectly timed and heavy strike lands squarely on Kuro's face.
Is that all the strength you've got? Kuro asks with a cocky, mocking grin.
Thwack! Kuro asks who will break first as blood splatters from their violent clash.
Grr! Tojo reaches out and grabs Kuro by the head with a fierce grip.
Whish! He pulls the leader in to deliver a devastating and final headbutt.
Crack! A brutal impact echoes as blood sprays from the sudden collision.
Thud! The scarred blonde man asks if their leader has been knocked out cold.
Kuro stands swaying and dazed with blood streaming down his face. Thud! The tattooed leader finally collapses to his knees before his opponent.
He's strong, Yuji's allies whispered, stunned by the overwhelming display of power.
Hey, don't just stand there, jump him! The scarred blonde man yells to his lackeys.
You're not getting past me, the large man says, blocking the charging intruders.
Stop it! The fight is over! Amano screams to finally halt the escalating violence.
You lost. Looks like we've settled our score, Tojo tells the fallen leader.
Shh! Tojo prepares to deliver a final and crushing strike to his enemy.
Crack! Tojo lands a brutal kick as the leader lets out a pained scream.
The scarred blonde man reveals he already called his cousin in the mobile investigation unit.
Tojo agrees to wait for the MIU while his friends fear they will be arrested.
Relax, nobody's getting arrested. We're gonna wait for them to show up, Tojo says.
It's fine, trust my friend, the smoky man says as he reassures a nervous Yuji.
Click! The steady and rhythmic sound of footsteps signals the arrival of authority.
What's going on? A brawl? The arriving police officer asks as he surveys the scene.
Kuroki lies to Hodaka about who started it, while Hodaka notes Tojo's guts for his actions.
Tojo realizes that Kuroki has corrupt and powerful police backing him. Too late to realize it now. You can reflect on your stupidity in prison, Hodaka sneers. Tojo asks if he has such authority, but Hodaka claims he is the law here.
Kuroki asks the officer if he can punch them once they are in the cells.
Hey, take these guys in, Hodaka barks his orders to the other officers.
The police officers charge forward with their batons raised to stack.
Mind if I make a quick call? Tojo asks the corrupt officer with calm defiance.
Hodaka laughs and tells Tojo to call whoever he wants since nobody can oppose him. Tojo claims Hodaka will soon be begging while Kuroki mocks his ignorance of Chief Tanaka. Kuroki reveals Hodaka is Chief Tanaka's nephew and mentions the influence of Mr. Manjiro. Tojo stares down Hodaka and prepares to make the call to settle things forever.
Hello? Tojo speaks calmly into his phone as the corrupt officers watch.
Got it, Tojo says into the receiver while Amano and Yuji watch with concern.
Tojo thinks this is a good chance to see if Goda is actually reliable. Stepping into the office with poise, a stunning woman in an elegant floral patent white kipao holds a folder and informs her employer, Boss Manabu Tojo is asking for your help. From behind his desk, the bald boss sits facing away, unimpressed. Taking a sip of his drink, he coldly commands her to turn Tojo down, complaining that the ungrateful punk hasn't been useful at all, yet continues to make constant demands. With a quiet understood, the woman's high heels click across the floor as she approaches him. She seductively climbs onto his lap, wrapping her arms around him and arguing that while Tojo lacks manners, he is sharp, capable, and cutting him loose now might hurt their own reputation. The boss slides his hand onto her thigh, reminding her that trust is a two-way street and he has no interest in grooming a betrayer. Smiling playfully, she taps his chin, reassuring him that no matter how much Tojo struggles, he is still just dancing in the palm of his hand. Smiling at her charms, the boss finally relents, saying, "Fine, have it your way. For your sake, I'll have Muto handle it this time." However, his expression turns stern as he adds that once it is settled, Tojo had better pay up what he owes. Back at the tense scene, a corrupt officer crouches mockingly with a smirk, holding a phone in front of his captive, while a tattooed thug grins behind him, jeering about what happened to the tough talk of being put on his knees begging for forgiveness. With blood dripping down his face, Manabu Tojo stares back with intense, dark eyes, silently wondering if Goda has no intention of saving him, or if this is just a scheme to squeeze every last bargaining chip out of him. Impatient and confident, the head officer points forward aggressively and barks orders to his men, shouting that he is done waiting and to haul everyone down to the station. Before the officers can make their move, a massive muscular hand suddenly reaches into the frame, grabbing the lead officer's shoulder with startling speed. The officers freeze as they turn to see a giant of a man towering over them. Sweating slightly, the lead officer tries to maintain his authority, warning him of the consequences of laying a finger on a cop. Sensing the shift in atmosphere, the tattooed thug points an aggressive finger, screaming at Tojo and his allies to stop resisting because they are completely finished. As the threat looms, a worried ally in a baseball cap looks on anxiously, while a quiet thought crosses their minds. Is this really the end of the line? Suddenly, the tense silence is shattered by the loud, aggressive vibration of the officer's smartphone, catching him completely off guard.
Pressing the phone to his ear, Hodaka's face pales as a furious voice on the other end screams, "Hodaka, you've really done it now!" Terrified, Hodaka stammers back to his superior, explaining that he was just arresting some local thugs, while Tojo watches him with cold, calculating composure. Hodaka's eyes widen in absolute horror as the chief's voice demands to know if those thugs include Manabu Tojo. Trembling, Hodaka mutters a weak confirmation. Seeing the officer's sudden panic, Tojo lets out a dark, sinister grin, noting that things are finally starting to get interesting. Desperate to save his career, the officer bows submissively to the phone, frantically assuring his chief that he will release Tojo at once. Completely oblivious to the situation, the tattooed thug demands to know what's going on, urging Hodaka to hurry up and make the arrest. Exploding with absolute rage, Hodaka turns on the thug, roaring, "Shut your mouth, you idiot!" before delivering a devastating slap that sends the thug spinning for daring to lay a hand on Mr. Manabu. With their attitude completely reversed, the officers stand in a submissive posture as one of them humbly hands his police baton over to Tojo. Sweating and bowing profusely, the officer begs for forgiveness, claiming it was all a big misunderstanding and that the real troublemakers are the trash lying on the floor, promising they will be taught a lesson. Glaring down at the pathetic cop, Tojo's voice drops to a menacing whisper as he asks if the officer has forgotten what he was told earlier. With eyes glowing like an apex predator, Tojo coldly orders the trembling officer to get down on his knees and apologize. Instantly dropping to his knees, the terrified cop begins violently slapping his own face, crying out in desperation, "I am so terribly sorry. Please just spare my life." Surrounded by a circle of stunned onlookers, the broken officer continues to slap himself repeatedly on the cold tile floor, utterly humiliated in front of his own men and allies. Blood splatters from the officer's swollen, bruised face as he strikes himself again and again to appease the man he foolishly threatened. Finally satisfied, Tojo casually waves his hand and dismisses them, telling them to take their trash, get lost, and never show their faces again. Sobbing with immense gratitude and relief, the beaten officer bows deeply, eagerly stammering, "Yes, sir." Standing by the glass door, Tojo and his companion watch silently as the disgraced officers and their beaten thugs scramble out of the courtyard as fast as their legs can carry them. Grinning widely, the ally slaps Tojo on the back, laughing in awe at his powerful backing and declaring that from this moment on, Tojo is officially their boss. Smiling warmly, the gentle giant steps up behind them, eagerly joining in to pledge his loyalty to their newly crowned boss. A pretty brunette steps forward with a warm smile, praising his impressive display. Tojo simply tells them to knock off the boss stuff, declaring that any friend of Yuji's is a friend of his, and promises to make it worth their while if they stick by him. Inspired by his words, the allies exchange determined, ambitious smiles, confident that under Tojo's leadership, they are going to make it big. Caressing his chin thoughtfully, Tojo catches everyone off guard by suggesting that maybe it's time for them to start a legitimate business. The entire group freezes in stunned, speechless disbelief, staring blankly at Tojo as if he had just spoken a foreign language. Smirking, Tojo clarifies his grand ambition, pointing out that with Kuroki out of the picture, the whole district is up for grabs, and they are going to make a fortune by taking over all his shops. Their eyes widen in concern as they realize the sheer scale of his plan, nervously questioning if taking over all of them might be a bit too reckless. Unshaken, Tojo stands tall, his scarred chest on full display as he firmly tells them that if you're going to do something, you go all the way or don't do it at all. Turning his attention to the brunette, Tojo instructs, "Hey, Amano, take that evidence we talked about and go pay Goda a visit for me, will you?" Looking over his shoulder with a sharp, ambitious smirk, Tojo declares his ultimate play. He is going to make a deal with the absolute big shot controlling the entire town. Back in the boss's luxurious office, the elegant woman in the white chapa steps through the door once more, announcing, "Sir, a package has arrived from Manabu Tojo." Inside the dimly lit office, the boss sits back with his cane while Amano, wearing a sophisticated black off-the-shoulder dress, stands before him presenting her message. Extending her hands politely, Amano hands a brown envelope directly to the boss, introducing herself and stating that Tojo insisted on handing this over directly. Standing confidently, Amano reveals that the envelope contains damning payoff evidence on Yoshimune Soga, one of the real power players in the city, which could prove extremely useful later on. Sitting with his hands resting on his cane, the elderly boss gazes up at Amano, a clever, calculating smile forming on his face as he processes this valuable gift. Standing tall with a calm and poised expression, Amano carries herself with immense confidence and elegance, commanding the room in her fitted black dress. A close-up of the bald boss's face shows his smug, satisfied grin as he realizes just how useful this bargaining chip will be.
Keeping her composure, Amano locks eyes with him and softly adds, "Actually, there's one more thing I'd like to ask of you." Thoroughly amused and intrigued by Tojo's boldness, the boss leans forward with a wide, welcoming grin, inviting her to go ahead and speak her mind. With an intense, sharp gaze, the woman's eyes lock onto her target as she speaks in a serious tone, declaring, "Our next mark is Shuhei Yoshimura." Resting his hands on his cane, the bald underground boss, Mr. Goda, scoffs dismissively. He looks up and wonders aloud. He's just a small-time black market dealer under Manjiro's protection, right? I don't see why I'd need to personally get involved over someone like that. Standing poised in her elegant black off-the-shoulder dress, Amano reassures him with a polite smile, saying, "Of course, Mr. Gaida, there's no need for you to take action yourself. If you simply sever Yoshimura's connection with the riot squad, we'll handle the rest on our end." Leaning forward with a cunning, suggestive smile, Mr. Goda slides his hand up Amano's leg as his assistant stands silently in the background, asking her, "If that's all, it's a simple task, but what do I get in return?" Maintaining her perfect composure despite his bold touch, Amano stands tall and promises calmly, "Once everything is settled, we'll make sure you're properly compensated." Taking a step back to 1 hour earlier, Tojo's ally in the baseball cap stands before the crew in a dimly lit room, pointing his finger as he explains the local power dynamics. Shuhei Yoshimura, the underground boss of this area, controls 10 places in total. He owns around 10 places, game centers, cafes, bars. Kuroki is nothing more than one of Yoshimura's lackeys, and Yoshimura is deeply tied to Chief Tanaka. He funnels a huge amount of money to him behind the scenes. Standing with his arms folded and a stern expression, Manabu Tojo processes the information and states firmly, "So if we want to deal with Yoshimura, the first thing we need to do is shut Tanaka up." Tojo narrows his eyes in deep calculating thought, silently realizing, even if we take out Kuroki, Tanaka wouldn't care. But if it turns into something that affects Tanaka's own interests, even someone like Mr. Gita might find it hard to silence him. Under a bright, clear sky, Tojo and his 3 loyal allies walk side by side with immense confidence towards the imposing high-security gates of Yoshimura's luxurious mansion. Looking over at Tojo with a tense and worried expression, the ally in the baseball cap warns him, "We just wiped out Kuroki. Now you want to walk into Yoshimura's territory? With his cash, the place will be crawling with guards." Wearing a cool, relaxed smirk, Tojo looks over his shoulder and reassures him, "Easy, we're not here to start a war, just negotiations." Seeing Tojo's unwavering confidence, the ally sighs in relief, nodding with a loyal expression as he replies, "Understood, I've got your back, boss." With a loud slam, Tojo boldly pushes open the heavy entrance doors, leading his formidable crew directly into the mansion's courtyard. Immediately, 2 massive, ferocious Doberman guard dogs leap forward, barking aggressively to defend the estate from the intruders. The fierce Dobermans stand their ground, baring their sharp teeth and growling menacingly as Tojo and his allies face them head-on. Standing directly in front of the growling beasts, Tojo's eyes suddenly glow with an intense, terrifying light as he says coldly, "Relax, it's nothing but a little puppy." Sensing an overwhelming, primal danger, the lead Doberman's eyes widen in absolute horror, its aggressive bark instantly cutting short. A colossal, roaring white tiger phantom materializes behind Tojo's glowing silhouette, unleashing an aura so fearsome that the 2 guard dogs instantly whimper in terror and cower on the ground. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps approaches as a voice calls out, "Over here!" while a large man in slippers and a silk robe steps into view. Standing proudly with a lit cigar in his mouth, the heavy-set underground boss Shuhei Yoshimura looks down at them, flanked by his suited bodyguards and his newly subdued dogs, saying, "So you're Manabu Tojo." Puffing on his cigar, Yoshimura lets out a mocking, arrogant grin, asking, "You cripple Kuroki and then show up here like nothing happened?" Looking back with complete composure, Tojo stands tall and answers calmly, "Kuroki was personal. Today is business." Angered by Tojo's boldness, Yoshimura's face contorts with disgust as he points his cigar and barks, "You think someone like you gets to talk business with me? Don't make me laugh. Get out." On their boss's command, 2 towering bodyguards in dark suits step forward aggressively, clenching their fists to throw Tojo out. Before they can lay a finger on Tojo, the gentle giant ally lunges forward with incredible speed, locking one of the bodyguards in a crushing, inescapable bear hug. At the same time, the ally in the baseball cap grabs the second bodyguard by his tie, choking him and yanking him backward while shouting, "Don't touch the boss!" As the chaotic brawl erupts around him, Tojo stands completely unfazed, his eyes narrowing as his allies prepare to unleash their full power, declaring, "That's it, I'm done holding back." Moving like a flash of lightning, Tojo delivers a devastating, blood-splattering punch straight to a bodyguard's jaw, sending him spinning. Turning to the next opponent, Tojo reaches out with an iron grip, grabbing the bodyguard tightly by the throat. With terrifying power, Tojo slams the bodyguard's head directly into the ground, unleashing a violent impact that sprays blood across the pavement. Within seconds, the brawny bodyguards lie completely unconscious and defeated on the bloody stone floor as Tojo stands triumphantly over them. Seeing his men wiped out, the lead bodyguard in the leopard print suit steps forward with a furious glare, warning, "You brought this on yourself." Raising his hand defensively while scowling in anger, Yoshimura sneers at Tojo, threatening, "Don't get smart with me. One phone call and you're all behind bars." Standing with one hand casually tucked into his pocket, Tojo looks back at them with a cold, smug expression and challenges, "Then call them. We'll wait." Yoshimura stares back in stunned disbelief, his face tightening as he realizes that Tojo is completely serious and utterly fearless. Desperate to regain control, Yoshimura quickly pulls out his smartphone and calls his corrupt contact, pleading, "Chief Tanaka, it's me. Some punks are tearing up my place. Send backup now." On the other end of the line, the chief's voice sounds tense as he asks, "Are they led by Manabu Tojo?" Prompting Yoshimura to glance nervously at Tojo and reply, "Yeah, that's him." Sitting at his police desk and sweating profusely under the pressure, Chief Tanaka delivers a shocking blow, stammering, "Sorry, I can't get involved. Orders from above." Yoshimura's face twists in sheer rage and desperation as he grips his phone tightly, screaming into the receiver, "What? After all the money I paid you?" Before Yoshimura can say another word, a sharp beep sounds as Chief Tanaka abruptly hangs up the phone, leaving Yoshimura holding a deadline. Standing in stunned, sweating silence, the powerful underground boss looks utterly defeated as he stares down at his silent phone. Stepping closer with a menacing, victorious smirk on his face, Tojo looks down at the broken boss and asks, "Mind if we come in?" Sighing in total defeat and realizing he has lost all his leverage, Yoshimura turns around in his silk robe and mutters, "Looks like I don't have a choice. Fine, come inside, I'll listen." Inside a lavish traditional Japanese reception room, Yoshimura sits at a wooden table while his leopard-suited bodyguard stands vigilantly behind him alongside one of the Dobermans. Across the table, Tojo sits comfortably with his loyal crew standing tall behind his chair as hot tea is poured into ceramic cups to mark the beginning of their negotiations. Taking a sip of his tea to try and regain his composure, Yoshimura glares intensely across the table and asks, "So, what's this talk about?" Leaning forward with a confident, knowing smile, Tojo locks eyes with him and begins, "I heard you entrusted some of the arcades to Kuroki." Yoshimura's face darkens with anger as he leans in, demanding sharply, "Did you crush him knowing he was my subordinate?" Gesturing casually with an open palm, Tojo smiles and lays out his terms, replying, "I've had a score to settle with Kuroki for a long time. He got exactly what he deserved. However, it's true that I caused trouble for your business. As an apology, would you let me take over the arcades Kuroki managed?" Shocked by the sheer audacity of the demand, the leopard-suited bodyguard explodes in fury, pointing and screaming, "Who the hell do you think you are? You've got some nerve meddling in the boss's business." Clenching his fist around a sharp knife, the leopard-suited bodyguard prepares to strike, aggressively shouting, "You holding a death wish?" With a calm but stern expression, Yoshimura raises his hand to hold his bodyguard back, signaling for him to stand down as a tense silence fills the room. Glaring intensely with a deeply furrowed brow, Yoshimura sneers in disbelief, admitting that he's never even heard of Tojo, and flatly questions, "Do you really have the skill to be entrusted with a business?" Leaning back comfortably in his chair, Tojo gestures calmly with an open hand and points out that the moment Chief Tanaka heard his name on the phone, he turned down the request, asking if Yoshimura honestly thinks that was just a coincidence. Sweat beads form on Yoshimura's temple as a sudden wave of panic hits him. He silently realizes that Tanaka indeed asked for the name before refusing, leaving him to wonder in terror if this mysterious man has a powerful backer capable of controlling the chief of police. Gripping his teacup with a bitter expression, Yoshimura grumbles in deep frustration, lamenting that if Master Manjiro were still alive, he would never have to endure being looked down on by someone like Tojo. Tojo's eyes narrow as he locks his gaze onto the old boss, coolly inquiring if by Master Manjiro he is referring to the infamous Manjiro Yoshida. But startled by Tojo's unexpected knowledge, Yoshimura's eyes widen in surprise as he sharply gasps, "You know him?" With a cold, terrifying expression shadowed in darkness, Tojo reveals with chilling composure that Manjiro set him up once, and now he is no longer of this world. Panic completely takes over Yoshimura's face as he stares in horror, silently piecing things together and wondering if the rumors of Manjiro dying in a fire were a lie, and if this monster sitting before him was the one who actually killed him. Staring at Tojo's calm, knowing smirk, Yoshimura is left completely overwhelmed, his mind screaming in fear as he wonders who this terrifying man truly is. Finally caving under the intense pressure, Yoshimura looks down and begrudgingly agrees to hand over the arcades. However, trying to save some face, he points out that he poured millions into those shops, proposing a profit split where he takes 7 and Tojo takes 3. Unfazed by the proposal, Tojo casually raises a finger to scratch his ear, coolly asking with a dismissive expression, "Isn't that backwards?" Looking Yoshimura straight in the eye with a terrifyingly confident grin, Tojo completely reverses the terms, demanding, "I take 7, you get 3. Outraged by the audacity, the bodyguard in the leopard print suit brandishes his knife once more and steps forward aggressively, screaming, "Don't get cocky, you bastard." Without even looking at the bodyguard, Tojo's eyes turn icy cold as he issues a chilling command, stating flatly, "Keep your mouth shut." Instantly backing up their boss, the massive, towering ally points a thick finger at the armed bodyguard and bellows, "You want to go, huh?" as the crew stands ready to defend Tojo. Fearing a total slaughter, Yoshimura snaps around and barks at his bodyguard to stand down, loudly declaring, "Silence, I am fine with doing exactly as Tojo says." Seizing the opportunity of their hesitation, Tojo's smirk widens as he raises a hand to adjust the terms further, casually saying, "Actually, on second thought, let's make it 8 for me and 2 for you." Yoshimura and his bodyguards stare in absolute jaw-dropping shock, utterly dumbfounded by Tojo's ruthless and bold negotiation tactic. With no cards left to play and completely broken, Yoshimura closes his eyes and clenches his teeth, muttering in total defeat, "Very well." Standing tall with a victorious smile, Tojo reaches out to offer a handshake, politely stating, "I appreciate that you catch on quickly. I look forward to working with you." Staring silently at Tojo's open palm, Yoshimura hesitates for a long moment, swallowing his pride as he prepares to seal the deal. With a firm, decisive grip, the two men shake hands, officially cementing Tojo's control over the lucrative arcades. Back at their headquarters, the energetic ally in the baseball cap enthusiastically boasts about their victory to Amano and the crew, laughing loudly as he describes how he and Tetsuya knocked out the bodyguards in one hit, and how hilarious Yoshimura's terrified face was. Smiling warmly as Amano listens with a gentle expression, the ally remarks confidently, "We're going to have a steady income streaming in from now on." Pulling out his cigarettes, Tojo remains highly analytical, warning the crew that things might not be that easy, noting that his deliberate provocation of Yoshimura didn't get the aggressive reaction he expected. Flicking open his lighter, Tojo sparks a flame to his cigarette and mutters solemnly, "We can't let our guard down." Back at the mansion, the leopard-suited bodyguard is boiling with rage, clenching his fist and pacing occupied space as he tells Yoshimura that Tojo is completely looking down on them, declaring he will secretly gather their men to crush Tojo. Snapping in absolute rage, Yoshimura's face contorts as he screams at his subordinate, reminding him forcefully, "Don't step out of line. I am the one who calls the shots here." Trembling under his boss's fierce outburst, the bodyguard immediately bows his head in fear, stammering, "Of course, I apologize." Placing a hand on his loyal subordinate's shoulder, Yoshimura warns him to stop spouting such dangerous nonsense, reminding him that Tojo clearly has massive backing and that any clumsy move could get them erased just like Master Manjiro. Still gripped by intense pride, the bodyguard looks back with a fiercely determined glare, declaring that he isn't afraid and is fully prepared to die if it means taking Tojo down with him. Walking slowly toward the traditional sliding doors, Yoshimura calmly tells him that such drastic measures won't be necessary, questioning if his subordinate understands the real reason why he was so willing to hand over Kuroki shops. Looking utterly puzzled, the bodyguard turns to his boss and asks, "What do you mean?" Turning his head slightly to reveal a sinister, scheming grin shrouded in darkness, Yoshimura explains that in their world, there are ways to completely erase an enemy without ever dirtying their own hands. Back at the crew's office, the ally in the baseball cap lays out a detailed city map across the table, shifting the focus to planning their next tactical move. Pointing his finger at one of the circled areas on the map, the ally notes that both of the newly acquired arcades are located in the Old Town Plaza, which is known to be the busiest district in Narihira. Folding her arms alongside the ally, Amano's expression tightens with suspicion as she realizes Yoshimura's true intentions, grimly stating that the cunning boss is definitely trying to set them up. Looking up from the map, Tojo asks for clarification, wondering why they think it's a trap since a busy district should logically yield incredibly high sales. Raising a hand defensively to emphasize the danger, the ally's face pales as he explains that the Old Town Plaza is actually the original territory of a notorious thug known as Snake. Looking grave as she adds to the explanation, Amano explains that Snake is legendary in the area, having earned his moniker by literally making a living dealing snakes. An ominous flashback reveals a blood-splattered silhouette holding a massive bloody blade. Amano grimly details his violent history, explaining that he beat a rival half to death during a brutal turf war, served 8 years in prison, and was just released this year. Gesticulating wildly in panic, the ally warns Tojo that this guy is an absolute lunatic who will undoubtedly come back with a vengeance to reclaim his lost territory. Leaning over the table, Tojo lets out a soft scoff, completely unfazed as he remarks that he knew there had to be a catch to Yoshimura's easy surrender, regardless of whether they have to face Snake or anyone else. Lock-focused on his goal, Tojo's eyes burn with an icy, relentless fury as he declares with absolute confidence, "Anyone who defies me, I'll just crush them all." With a powerful slam of his hand onto the map, Tojo signals his unwavering determination to take over the territory, no matter who stands in his way. Smiling warmly, Tojo's longtime friend places a reassuring hand on his shoulder, loyally promising that since they've been together since childhood, he will always have Tojo's back, no matter what. Turning to Amano, Tojo gently places a comforting hand on her shoulder and reassures her with a calm smile, saying, "It's all right, don't worry." Reinvigorated by Tojo's fearlessness, the entire crew gathers around the table with raised fists and bright smiles. They enthusiastically cheer to celebrate securing 2 new locations today, shouting that they should drink till they drop and eat meat, fully united and ready for the battles ahead. Outside, the night is calm under a street lamp, but inside the cozy restaurant, a celebration is in full swing. 2 glasses clink together in a joyful toast over a table laden with delicious food as someone enthusiastically cheers, "Tonight we drink our fill," and another replies, "Cheers." The round dining table is packed with an impressive feast of roasted chicken, soup, spring rolls, and various side dishes. As everyone enjoys the meal and drinks, one of the crew members notices an empty chair and asks, "Where did Tojo go?" Swirling his drink in his glass, the ally in the tiger-patterned suit chuckles lightly, explaining with a grin, "He's always been a lightweight, probably drank too much and ran to the bathroom." Suddenly, the door opens and Tojo steps back into the private dining room carrying a heavy black duffel bag. The crew members stop eating, staring at him in confusion, with silent question marks floating over their heads as they wonder what he is up to. With a quiet, knowing smile, Tojo opens the bag and pulls out a handful of brand new, modern smartphones, presenting them to his surprised crew. Staring in complete disbelief, the wide-eyed ally in the baseball cap leans forward, stammering, "Those smartphones? Are they seriously for us?" Standing tall at the table, Tojo generously distributes the devices, declaring with a proud smile, "One for each of you," as everyone reaches out to receive their new phones. Examining the sleek device in his hands, the ally in the baseball cap explodes with excitement, grinning widely as he shouts, "Whoa, for real? It's the latest model. Talk about generous." Staring happily at a screen, another crew member immediately tests out a mobile game, amazed by how smoothly it runs, and happily comments, "Games run super smooth on this. I finally caught up with the modern age." Clutching a sleek pink smartphone, Amano looks over at Tojo with a gentle, appreciative gaze. She blushes slightly as a warm thought crosses her mind. "Mine is the only different color. He went out of his way to pick this just for me." Although thrilled, the ally in the tiger-patterned suit looks at the expensive phone with a hint of hesitation, admitting, "But this must have been expensive, right? I can't just accept this." Holding up his glass, Tojo looks at his crew with deep sincerity and reminds them, "We're comrades who've risked our lives together, aren't we? This is the least I can do." He smiles warmly, adding, "Use these phones to stay connected and strengthen our bond. Don't you think that's worth it?" Touched by his heartfelt speech, the crew members nod in silent, solemn agreement, their respect and loyalty for their leader growing even stronger. Raising his glass high, Tojo passionately promises, "Once we fully control the arcades, everyone gets a cut. Mark my words, I'm taking you all to the top. We're going to do big things. Now cheers." With a resounding cheers, the team slams their glasses together in a powerful, unified toast. After drinking quite a bit, the ally in the baseball cap stumbles down the quiet, dimly lit hallway of the restaurant, completely unaware of a suspicious hooded figure watching him from the shadows. As the ally turns the corner, he collides directly with the hooded man, the sudden impact making him stop in his tracks. Annoyed by the stranger's silence and lack of apology, the ally turns around and barks angrily, "Hey, watch where the hell you're going!" But the hooded figure simply continues walking away, keeping his face concealed. Back inside the private dining room, Tojo is casually pouring more drinks when the ally in the baseball cap stumbles back in, still looking slightly buzzed, while a phone on the table starts to vibrate loudly. Holding his new phone to his ear, one of the crew members chuckles playfully, saying, Amano stares at him with an exasperated expression, holding her pink phone as she complains, "Geez, I'm sitting right in front of you. Why are you calling me?" The crew member defends his silly joke with a wide grin, explaining, "It's a brand new phone. I just wanted to test it out." This response erupts into a wave of laughter around the table, with someone shouting, "Makes sense!" as they all burst out laughing. Suddenly, the cheerful mood is shattered as the ally in the baseball cap frantically pats his chest pockets, his face turning pale with absolute panic as he gasps, "Huh? My phone's gone." Realization hits him like a truck, and his panic quickly turns into pure rage. He grits his teeth and yells, "It was that guy I bumped into in the bathroom. He must have swiped it. Damn it, he's got some nerve stealing from me." Without waiting another second, the furious ally bolts out of the private room to give chase, leaving Amano calling after him in worry. Hey, wait! Recognizing the danger of his friend running off alone while drunk, Tojo calmly stands up and instructs the rest of his crew, "That guy, he's pretty wasted, so I'll go see how he's doing. You guys stay here and keep drinking." Under the dim streetlights, the hooded thief sprints down the empty alleyways. Close behind, the ally in the baseball cap chases him at full speed, screaming, "Stop running, you thief!" while Tojo pursues both of them with intense focus. In his drunken, reckless state, the ally's foot catches awkwardly on the edge of the pavement, losing his footing completely. With a startled whoa, he crashes heavily onto the hard asphalt, rolling over in pain and losing his chance to catch the thief. Tojo immediately stops and kneels down beside him, asking with deep concern, "Are you hurt?" But the determined ally grabs Tojo's arm, urging him, "I'm fine, forget about me, just get him." Nodding firmly, Tojo springs up and launches himself forward, his athletic form cutting through the night as he resumes the high-speed pursuit on his own. Meanwhile, back at the quiet restaurant table, the pink phone continues to buzz persistently, prompting Amano to sigh and tell her teammate, "Give it a rest already, Kitamura." Kitamura looks back in confusion, holding up his own phone to show he isn't dialing as he replies, "It wasn't me." Surprised, Amano picks up her phone and looks closely at the screen, which displays a missed call from an unrecognized, mysterious number. Sensing that something is off, Amano presses the phone to her ear and cautiously answers, "Hello?" A cold shiver runs down Amano's spine as a threatening voice on the other end demands, "I'll be waiting at the usual spot. You know what happens if you bail on me, don't you?" Leaving her completely frozen in terror. Shaken to her core, Amano sits in stunned silence, clutching the phone tightly as a shadow of dread and anxiety completely takes over her face. Out on the dark streets, the thief continues to run as fast as his legs can carry him, but Tojo is closing the gap with terrifying speed, his heavy footsteps echoing through the night. Sprinting through the narrow, desolate alleys, Tojo maneuvers around corners with fluid agility, refusing to let his target slip away. Suddenly, the thief skids to a halt as he runs straight into a dead end, blocked by a massive, insurmountable brick wall. Before the thief can turn back, Tojo slides to a stop at the entrance of the alleyway, effectively trapping him and blocking his only escape route. Desperate to escape, the thief gathers his strength and leaps toward the brick wall, attempting to scale it and climb over. Refusing to let him go, Tojo charges forward with explosive power, aiming to drag the thief back down to earth before he can escape over the wall. The thief manages to reach the top ledge of the high brick wall, scrambling to throw his body over to the other side. But just as the thief is about to slip away, Tojo's powerful hand shoots up and grips the thief's leg in an iron-tight, unbreakable hold. With a forceful yank, Tojo pulls the thief backward, sending him flying off the wall to crash painfully onto the concrete floor below. Panting heavily from the intense chase, Tojo pins the thief to the ground under his weight, declaring with cold determination, "Finally caught you!" Trembling in absolute terror under Tojo's heavy glare, the thief raises his hands defensively and stammered, It's a misunderstanding. I just picked up a phone that was lying on the ground. I didn't steal it or anything." But as the thief looks closer at Tojo's face, his eyes widen in sudden shocking recognition, and he gasps, "Wait, Mr. Gaku?" Tojo's stern expression softens into surprise as he recognizes the man beneath the hood, asking, "You're Ui from the same prison, aren't you? What are you doing in a place like this?" Overjoyed and deeply relieved to see his former prison comrade alive, Ui smiles through his tears and cries out, "Mr. Gaku, you're alive, thank goodness!" Sitting side by side in the dim twilight of an alleyway, Oi shares the gossip from behind bars, explaining that after that massive brawl, Mr. Kai resisted the guards and even injured them, leading them to throw him into a different solitary cell. Oi looks over at Gaku, noting that since he disappeared, the joint became surprisingly peaceful. Ui takes a drag from his cigarette, looking sideways at Gaku with a tense, worried expression as he adds that Mr. Kai did say that if Mr. Gaku was still alive, he would absolutely crush him. Gaku merely smiles with cool confidence, holding up his cigarette as smoke drifts around him, replying with complete composure that Kai should come if he dares, and that he actually almost wants to thank him. Staring in complete shock and disbelief, Ui looks closely at Gaku's calm face, stammering that everyone said he died in prison and wondering how he could possibly still be alive. Gaku gazes forward into the dark night, calmly telling Ui that he has no desire to discuss the past. However, he leaves him with one powerful promise. He survived, he is still standing, and he fully intends to make a name for himself again. Deeply moved, Ui asserts that if anyone can do it, it's Mr. Gaku. He then breaks down, covering his face with his hand as tears stream down his cheeks. He tearfully explains that he was released a month ago, but with his criminal record, he couldn't find a job. Desperate and having not eaten in days, he resorted to stealing a smartphone, never imagining it belonged to one of Gaku's associates. Sobbing in shame, he begs Gaku to overlook it, terrified of going back to prison. Gaku stands quietly in the dim light, looking down with a silent, contemplative expression at his former prison comrade, who continues to sob uncontrollably into his hand. Breaking the heavy silence, Gaku looks down at Ui and offers him a hand of salvation, asking if he wants to join him. Ui's face instantly lights up with hope and profound relief, tears still streaming down his face as he smiles widely, eagerly promising that if Gaku takes him in, he will do absolutely anything. Gaku leans down slightly, his expression turning cold and piercing as he tests the man's loyalty, asking him if he would follow his orders even if he told him to die. Ui looks back at him with complete sincerity, admitting with a heavy heart that without someone to rely on, he couldn't survive a single day out here anyway. Looking up with fierce determination in his eyes, Ui declares that Gaku is his only lifeline, and if he is ordered to die, he will do it with a smile. Gaku's serious facade breaks into a warm smile as he pats Ui reassuringly on the shoulder, chuckling that he was only joking and telling him it's time to go. Back at the cozy restaurant, the door opens with a click and Gaku walks back into the private dining room with Ui trailing behind him, drawing the attention of the crew members gathered around the table. The ally in the zebra-patterned suit immediately recognizes the thief. Slamming his hand on the table, he leaps to his feet in a blind rage, shouting that Ui is the bastard who stole his phone and screaming that he's gonna kick his ass. Gaku quickly steps in and places a firm, restraining hand on his angry ally's shoulder, calmly commanding him to hold it, which leaves the furious man looking back in confusion. Gaku stands composed beside Oi, explaining to his crew that what happened earlier was just a misunderstanding. He proudly introduces Shin Oi as his buddy from prison, declaring that starting today, he is officially one of them. Bowing deeply in sincere apology, Ui holds out the stolen smartphone, expressing that he had no idea it belonged to Gaku's crew and begging for forgiveness. Seeing that the newcomer is a trusted friend of their leader, the ally's anger instantly vanishes. He accepts the phone and warmly welcomes Ui to the crew, stating that a friend of Gaku is a friend of theirs. Gaku smiles warmly, wrapping his arms around his crew member's shoulders as he proudly promises Oi that he will never go hungry again, and vows to personally deal with anyone who tries to mess with him. Overwhelmed with gratitude and on the verge of tears, Ui looks at Gaku with deep respect, promising to follow and serve him for the rest of his life. Looking around the dining table, Gaku notices an empty seat and inquires about Amano's whereabouts, wondering where she went. Holding his glass, the ally in the red suit shrugs casually, guessing that she might just be in the bathroom. Another crew member chimes in with concern, correcting him by explaining that Miss Rai suddenly rushed out a moment ago, having turned completely pale after receiving a mysterious phone call. Gaku's expression immediately hardens with intense concern. Sensing that something is seriously wrong, he pulls out his phone and instructs the crew that they need to move. Outraged by the potential danger to their comrade, the heavy-set crew member slams his fist onto the table, furiously shouting about who would dare mess with Miss Ray. Below, the quiet night cityscape of towering skyscrapers sets a tense, ominous backdrop. Under the dim streetlights, a gray-haired thug wearing a pink suit descends a flight of outdoor stairs, flanked by two formidable bodyguards in dark suits, a hostile and menacing glare on his face. Standing in a desolate alley, Amano looks on in fear as the thug aggressively confronts her, demanding to know where she's been wandering for the past few days. Before she can fully answer, he brutally slaps her across the face, accusing her of trying to run out on the money she owes him. Clutching her bruised, stinging cheek, Amano looks down in deep emotional pain and exhaustion, quietly stating that she brought the money. Trembling, Amano holds out several thick stacks of cash wrapped in bands, desperately declaring that once she returns this money, she is cutting all ties with him forever. The thug snatches the cash, but his expression quickly shifts from surprise to intense irritation as he counts it, demanding to know where she got this money and why there is only $2 million. Amano glares back with fierce defiance, arguing that she only borrowed $1.6 million from him for her brother's surgery and asserts that paying back $2 million should be more than enough. In a sudden flash of violence, the thug reaches out and grabs Amano tightly by her hair, yanked backward with brute force. Pulling her face closed with a sadistic, mocking grin, the loan shark reminds her that her brother would be dead if he hadn't lent her that money, sneeringly asking if she truly thinks his life is only worth a measly $400,000 in interest. Grimacing in pain but refusing to back down, Amano demands to know how much he wants. The smug thug demands another $6 million, claiming the first $2 million was just a compensation fee for cheating on him. Disgusted by his delusion, Amano spits directly in his face. As spit lands on his cheek, she angrily screams, asking who he thinks he is to call it cheating and reminding him that he is nothing more than one of her many customers. Furious at being insulted, the thug unleashes a brutal, heavy kick straight into Amano's stomach, calling her a cheap tool and screaming in rage as she gasps in pain. Amano crashes hard onto the concrete, clutching her stomach and coughing in agony, while the towering loan shark and his silent bodyguards loom over her. Raising his fist to strike her again, the crazed thug lunges forward viciously, declaring that he doesn't care how she earns the money, but warning her to never forget that she belongs to him. Just before the punch can land on Amano, a powerful, heavily veined hand shoots out from the darkness and catches the thug's wrist in an iron grip. The thug's angry face instantly freezes, his eyes widening in sheer shock as he feels the terrifying strength holding his arm in place. Emerging from the shadows, Gaku stands tall, his eyes glowing with cold, deadly fury. With a terrifying presence, he commands the thug to stop, easily keeping his wrist pinned. Flustered and struggling against the grip, the pink-suited thug tries to swing his other arm, angrily demanding to know who Gaku is and what he wants. Without uttering a single word of explanation, Gaku unleashes a devastating punch straight to the thug's jaw, coldly demanding to know why he raised his hand against Amano. Staggering back and clutching his face, the enraged loan shark screams back with absolute defiance, shouting that what he does with his woman is his own business. Looking up from the cold pavement, Amano desperately yells to set the record straight, shouting that the thug is absolutely not her boyfriend and means nothing to her. The thug sneers with a vile, mocking smirk, pointing a mocking finger at Gaku as he vulgarly suggests that they must be Amano's customers, crudely offering them a discount. Gaku's rage completely boils over. He unleashes a thunderous, bone-shattering punch straight into the thug's face, sending a massive spray of blood flying into the air. With a chilling, murderous smile and blood-stained hands, Gaku looks down at the trash before him, coldly promising to make sure he never runs his filthy mouth ever again. The defeated loan shark staggers backward in complete agony, clutching his bloody face and coughing up blood, entirely shattered by Gaku's overwhelming power. "You got some nerve laying a hand on Mr. Hiroto!" Hiroto's two muscular bodyguards in black suits and ties charge forward with furious expressions, shouting in anger at Gaku's audacity for striking their boss. Gaku's allies confidently intercept the attack. With rapid and powerful movements, they easily dodge and counter the bodyguards, engaging them in a chaotic street fight. "You? I've seen your face somewhere." Clutching his bleeding nose and face in pain, the loan shark Hiroto glares with wide, bloodshot eyes at Gaku, trying desperately to recall where he has seen him before. "No need to recall. I am Gaku Tojo. You told Amano to pay $6 million earlier, didn't you?" Gaku Tojo stands tall and composed in the dimly lit alley, staring back with a chilling, cold gaze as he introduces himself and demands confirmation of the 6 million yen demand. "Yeah, she owes me a debt." Still holding his bloodied face and trembling, Hiroto defensively shouts back, insisting that Amano is indebted to him to justify his ruthless actions. "So, he really isn't your boyfriend, is he?" "No, he's just a scumbag who used me." Gaku looks back slightly at Amano to confirm the relationship. Amano, standing close behind him with a look of desperation and disgust, eagerly clarifies that the loan shark is nothing but a manipulative scumbag who took advantage of her. "I see. Then I don't have to hold back on crushing him." Hearing her answer, Gaku cracking his knuckles with an ominous sound, preparing to unleash his full, terrifying wrath on the loan shark. "What do you think you're doing?" Sensing Gaku's murderous intent, Hiroto backs away in absolute terror, holding up his hands defensively as cold sweat drips down his face. Without a moment's hesitation, Gaku unleashes a thunderous high kick straight into Hiroto's side, sending him flying through the air as blood sprays from his mouth. "Mr. Hiroto!" Seeing their boss get brutally kicked, one of the bodyguards attempts to rush to his aid, but Gaku's ally in the purple-patterned suit looms up behind him with a fierce grin.
Gaku's ally delivers a devastating heavy punch straight to the bodyguard's face, instantly knocking him out and sending a shower of blood and spit flying into the cool night air. Stay down if you don't want to get hurt any worse. The ally looks down at the defeated bodyguard sprawling unconscious on the pavement, coldly warning him not to get back up if he values his life. I see. So you are Gaku Tojo. You really intend to fight me over a shitty woman like her who sleeps with just anyone? Staggering to his feet, Hiroto spits out blood and pants heavily, glaring at Gaku with insane desperation and questioning why someone as powerful as Gaku would risk a fight over a woman like Amano. Come on, prepare yourself. With a crazed, bloodshot look, Hiroto pulls out a sharp knife from his suit jacket and holds it forward, trying to intimidate Gaku. You coward! Standing before his crew and Amano, Gaku scoffs in disgust at the sight of the weapon, mocking the loan shark's pathetic cowardice. Ha! Did you get scared? Thinking Gaku is hesitant, Hiroto smiles maniacally and moves forward with the blade, trying to hide his own rising fear. Don't come any closer. I'll really kill you. Unfazed by the weapon, Gaku slowly opens his black shirt, revealing his heavily scarred and muscular chest. Seeing this terrifying display, Hiroto freezes, his bravado instantly shattering as he tremblingly backs away. Die! Pushed to the brink of panic, Hiroto lunges forward in a desperate, wild attempt to stab Gaku with the knife. With lightning-fast reflexes, Gaku catches Hiroto's wrist in an iron grip. With a quick twist, he disarms the loan shark, sending the knife clattering harmlessly to the ground. Gaku follows up with a heavy, bone-shattering fist straight to Hiroto's jaw, sending him spinning backward in a violent spray of blood. Hiroto crashes heavily onto the concrete alleyway, gasping for air as blood spatters all over the ground beneath him. Gaku mounts the defeated loan shark, relentlessly raining down a barrage of brutal, heavy punches onto his face, completely soaking his fists in blood. Tojo, stop it! Don't dirty your hands any further for my sake. Fearing Gaku might actually beat the man to death, Amano cries out in desperation, begging Gaku to stop for his own sake. Please, spare me. It was my fault. His face swollen, bloody, and completely disfigured, Hiroto weakly raises his hand, whimpering and begging for mercy as he confesses his guilt. Listen close. First, you're paying Amano $6 million in reparations. You have 1 month. You know what happens if you try to run, right? I'll pay. I promise I'll pay. Gaku stops punching and grabs Hiroto by his hair, pulling his face close to deliver a cold, terrifying ultimatum. Terrified of dying, Hiroto immediately cries out, desperately promising to pay every single yen. And another thing, gather all your lackeys, get on your knees, and apologize to Amano. Holding Hiroto firmly by his hair, Gaku towers over him, laying down his final humiliating condition. That's... Hiroto hesitates, the thought of throwing away all his pride and begging Amano for forgiveness leaving him stammering. Gaku instantly silences him with another devastating punch straight to his bloody face, refusing to tolerate any hesitation. All right, I'll apologize. I'll do it. Utterly broken and sobbing, Hiroto frantically waves his hands in submission, weeping as he desperately agrees to Gaku's demands. We are truly sorry. I promise I'll pay the $6 million too. Under the dim alleyway lights, Hiroto and his 2 bruised bodyguards drop to their knees and perform a deep, humiliating bow, crying out their apologies to Amano, Gaku, and their crew. Get out of here, and don't you ever let me see your face again. Clutching her chest as her emotions finally overflow, Amano fiercely orders the pathetic loan shark to leave and never cross her path again. Didn't you hear her? Get the hell out of here. Gaku's face turns dark and menacing as he glares at the lingering thugs, his terrifying voice echoing in the alleyway as he orders them to leave. Heh, scum. One of Gaku's allies spits in disgust as the heavily beaten Hiroto is dragged away, supported by his limping bodyguards. Thank you for coming to save me. The moment the thugs disappear, Amano's composure breaks. She rushes forward and throws her arms around Gaku, hugging him tightly as she tearfully expresses her gratitude. It's okay now, so don't cry. I won't let anyone lay a hand on you ever again. Gaku gently wraps his arms around Amano and pats her back reassuringly, offering her a warm, protective embrace. Give us a hug too, come on. We came all the way out here to save you too, you know. Standing nearby, the ally in the zebra-patterned suit lightens the heavy atmosphere, playfully opening his arms and teasingly demanding a hug of his own. Let them have their moment. We should head back first. It's just like he said. I really am the lowest kind of woman who sleeps with just anyone. Why? Why would you do all this for me?
Smiling warmly, the other allies pat the teasing ally on the shoulder and quietly suggest giving the two some space. Meanwhile, leaning against Gaku's chest, Amano is consumed by guilt, silently questioning why Gaku would go so far to protect someone like her. Because we're friends, I consider your problems to be my own. Stroking Amano's hair, Gaku looks down at her with gentle, sincere eyes, giving her a simple yet powerful answer that warms her heart. But you're going to achieve big things from here on out. It would be a total disgrace if people found out you had a friend like me. Gazing up into his eyes, Amano expresses her deep insecurities, worried that her checkered past will eventually ruin Gaku's grand future. Stop thinking about such nonsense. Let's go home. We have the arcade handover tomorrow. Make sure you dress up properly for it. Gaku smiles warmly, brushing away her worries with a cheerful grin as he reminds her of their big plans for tomorrow. Let's go! Gaku confidently leads the way as Amano walks closely by his side, their bond stronger than ever as they head back home together. Amano gazes up at Gaku with a beautiful, heartfelt smile, tears of pure relief and gratitude shining in her eyes under the soft, glowing snow falling around them. A stylistic title card transitions the story to Chapter 25, featuring bold red and black Japanese characters against a stark white background. The scene shifts to the next morning, showing a beautiful sunrise lighting up a traditional tiled gateway under a lush green tree, signaling the arrival of a new day. Aren't you coming with us? Inside a bright dressing room, Gaku stands in a sharp, tailored black suit as Amano gently adjusts his tie. He looks down at her and asks if she will join them. Yeah, I'll pass. I don't want to be a burden to everyone. I'll cook a delicious meal and wait for you at home. Amano looks up with a soft, gentle smile, declining the offer as she modestly explains that she wants to cook a nice celebratory meal for everyone instead. Why are you acting so distant? Today's the big day we take over the shop, you know? Suddenly, the ally in the zebra-patterned suit walks into the room while getting dressed in a suit, questioning why Amano is being so reserved on such an important day. Now, if Snake happens to storm the shop, it'll be a hassle to fight freely. Let's have Amano wait at home after all. Gaku steps in with a warm, casual gesture, agreeing that it would be safer for Amano to stay home in case their enemies try to cause trouble. You all look really sharp today. Feeling deeply cared for, Amano smiles brightly, looking at them with warm admiration and complimenting how sharp they all look in their suits. Gaku's two muscular allies stand side by side in their tight matching dark suits, sweating profusely and looking incredibly uncomfortable and stiff in their formal attire, maintaining an awkward silence. Is the suit absolutely necessary? Honestly, it's kind of hard to move in. One of Gaku's allies, standing inside the bright dressing room, looks incredibly awkward and uncomfortable in his neat black suit, pulling at his collar as he complains about the stiff formal wear. We aren't going there to pick a fight today. This is strictly a scouting run for the business. Do your best not to cause any trouble. Standing calm and composed in his own sharp black suit, Gaku raises his finger to instruct his crew, reminding them to stay on their best behavior and focus purely on checking out the arcade. Seriously? Here? Isn't this place totally high-end? Standing in front of the glittering neon-lit building of Dynasty Amusements, Gaku's crew is taken aback by how clean and high-end the rival arcade looks compared to what they expected. Wrong. This is Snake's turf. It's the biggest arcade in the area. One of Gaku's allies nudges his friend with his elbow, explaining that this massive and sleek establishment belongs to their rival, Snake, and dominates the local neighborhood. So, basically, these guys are our competition now? Standing on the street, Gaku looks up at the impressive rival building with his hands in his pockets, realization dawning on him that they are now going head-to-head with Snake's premier arcade. We can definitely run things better than them. Gaku's confident ally claps him on the shoulder with a wide, optimistic grin, fully believing that their team has the skills and determination to outperform Snake's high-end shop. No doubt about that. Standing behind Gaku, his formidable crew members nod in unison with determined, confident expressions, completely agreeing that they will easily run a better business. Excuse us, coming through. Two stylish schoolgirls walking down the busy street politely call out as they pass right through Gaku's group of tall, imposing men in suits. The schoolgirls are momentarily startled as they walk past the towering, muscular figures in dark suits, feeling the heavy and intimidating presence of Gaku and his crew on the pavement. Yeah, so you're into older guys. Hey, did you see that? That guy just now was actually pretty cool, wasn't he? Having walked past, one of the schoolgirls blushes slightly and whispers to her friend about how cool Gaku looked, while her friend giggles and playfully teases her about her taste in older men. Do girls actually go to arcades these days? Gaku watches the two high school girls walk toward the entrance of Dynasty Amusements, a bit surprised and curious about the arcade's diverse customer base. That way of thinking is ancient. Nowadays, arcades are packed with dance games and tons of machines that are super popular with girls. And if girls come, you know the male customers are going to follow, so we can't make money unless we adapt to the times, huh? All right, let's go check out our shop. Gaku's street-smart ally laughs and corrects his old-fashioned thinking, explaining that modern arcades must appeal to girls to attract bigger crowds and make real money. Taking the advice to heart, Gaku smiles and leads the way to inspect their new property. Standing before a dusty, rundown building with a faded sign reading Game Plaza Starlight, Gaku and his crew look at the shutter doors, which are sealed shut with an X of white tape. To think the difference would be this extreme. Looking at their boarded-up, depressing shopfront, the crew's faces fall in disappointment, realizing just how massive the gap is between their rundown place and Snake's luxurious Dynasty Amusements. No wonder he handed over Kuroki's shop so easily. A dark shadow falls over Gaku's face as he narrows his eyes in annoyance, realizing that their rival intentionally dumped a completely ruined, non-functional arcade on them. I actually came here about a year ago. It's a corner lot, so it was pretty lively back then. One of Gaku's allies rubs his chin thoughtfully, recalling that the location is actually a prime corner lot that used to be incredibly busy and lively not long ago. So it used to be prosperous? Yes, but that was before Dynasty was built. And with a school nearby, they had plenty of student customers too. The ally explains that the arcade was highly successful due to the nearby school, but its business was completely crushed once Snake built his high-end Dynasty Amusements. Without a second thought, Gaku reaches out and violently rips the white tape seal off the metal shutter, determined to bring the arcade back to life. In short, the location and conditions aren't bad. For it to go bust regardless, someone must have been pulling strings behind the scenes. Holding the torn tape, Gaku turns back to his crew, concluding that the arcade's sudden downfall wasn't natural and was likely the result of dirty, underhanded tactics. Grabbing the bottom of the heavy metal shutter, Gaku easily lifts it all the way up, throwing open the entrance as his crew watches him from behind. As the shutter rises, a dark and dusty interior is revealed, filled with rows of old, powered-down arcade cabinets and stools casting long shadows across the checkered floor. Sarawatari and Kitamura, can you check the machines to make sure they aren't broken? Stepping inside, Gaku immediately takes charge and directs his two allies to inspect the old gaming cabinets and ensure they are still in working order. Oi, I'm counting on you to handle the flyers and the recruitment ads. Let's see, for 3 days after the opening, tokens will be free. Gaku assigns the marketing duties to Oi, brainstorming promotional ideas such as offering free tokens for the first 3 days to quickly attract a large crowd, while a hand flips the main circuit breaker switches to restore power. No, maybe I should just scatter cash instead. Gaku pauses, his gaze turning serious as he contemplates a much wilder, high-impact marketing strategy to instantly generate hype in the neighborhood. I'm counting on you. Understood, I'm off then. Gaku pulls out a thick, heavy stack of cash and hands it over to his ally, sending him off to execute their aggressive promotional plans. Mr. Gaku, the machines are all good to go. Sitting in front of one of the illuminated arcade cabinets, the ally tests the joystick and buttons, happily calling out that the hardware is fully functional and ready for action. All right, then we start business tomorrow. Gaku gestures confidently with an open hand, a sharp and eager smile spreading across his face as he declares that they are officially opening the doors tomorrow. Hey, who gave you permission to open the shutter? Suddenly, two hostile thugs from Snake's gang walk through the open entrance, their motorcycle parked outside as they glare at Gaku and demand to know who authorized them to open the closed shop. I just came to check on my own shop. Is there a problem? Your shop? Our boss already put this place on lockdown. Business is banned here. Standing tall and unfazed, Gaku casually explains that he is simply inspecting his new business, but the lead thug in the purple shirt angrily retorts that Snake has banned all business in this location. Why? Tell me the reason. Gaku walks closer, a dangerous, cold smile forming on his face as he calmly demands an explanation for the ban. Quit your yapping. Boss Snake gave the order. Anyone who interferes with my business in Old Town Plaza gets killed. You got that, punk? The bald, sleeveless thug steps forward and aggressively points his finger in Gaku's face, loudly reciting Snake's ruthless decree that anyone operating in this area will be eliminated. Gaku's formidable allies loom behind him, their faces darkening into expressions of pure, silent fury as they stare down the two foolish thugs who dared to threaten their boss. You bastard! Now calm down. Infuriated by the thugs' disrespect, Gaku's muscular ally prepares to crush them, but Gaku calmly places a hand on his shoulder, telling him to hold back for a moment. This shop opens exactly as planned. Go back and tell Snake this. As long as he doesn't touch me, I won't make the first move. But if he does try to get in my way, tell him he'll pay a heavy price for it. Who the hell do you think you are? You want to get crushed? Gaku delivers a chilling, calm warning to the thugs, but the lead thug completely misses the danger, angrily shouting back and questioning Gaku's authority. Hey, why the hell did you close the shutter? Suddenly, a loud metal crash echoes through the room as Gaku's two allies slam the heavy metal shutter shut, locking them all inside and trapping the two thugs. The best place to discipline a dog is inside a cage. Standing in the darkened room, Gaku looks down at the terrified thugs with a chilling, predatory glare, his hands casually in his pockets as he delivers his ominous final words before the beatdown. Gah! Give us a break. We admit we messed up. It hurts. We won't ever do it again. Please let us go. From outside the closed, locked shutter of Game Plaza Starlight, heavy crashing sounds and desperate, agonizing screams of pain echo into the street as the thugs are brutally disciplined. Inside the arcade, the two thugs lie completely broken and bloodied on the checkered floor, unconscious and groaning in deep pain after Gaku's crew effortlessly dismantled them. Throw these guys out, as far away as possible. Looking down at the pathetic thugs, Gaku coldly orders his allies to clear the trash and dump their bodies far away from the arcade. That is some serious strength. One of Gaku's massive muscular allies easily lifts one of the unconscious thugs onto his shoulder like a sack of potatoes, earning a word of admiration from the crew for his immense power. I'm leaving the shop cleanup to you. Call a contractor to replace the broken glass. Also, arrange for 2 cleaning staff who can work long-term. And take down the shop sign. We're changing it to a new one. Gaku hands a stack of cash to his chief ally, instructing him to hire contractors to fix up the place, hire long-term cleaning staff, and remove the old faded sign to make room for their brand new brand. Roger! Holding the cash tightly, the loyal ally salutes Gaku with a proud, excited grin, eager to get to work on transforming the rundown space. By the way, what are we going to call the new shop? The ally stops and looks back at Gaku, curious to know the name Gaku has chosen for their new business empire. Since we're aiming for the very top, let's call it Zenith Amusements. Standing tall and pointing his finger confidently toward the ceiling, Gaku declares the bold new name, reflecting his ultimate ambition to dominate the entire city. Love it! I'll get that sorted out right away. Hearing the brilliant name, the ally gives Gaku an enthusiastic thumbs up, fully pumped to begin the arcade's grand rebranding. Huh? Where's Ray? Later that evening, Gaku and his ally walk back into their shared apartment, looking around the kitchen and living room, but finding the place unusually quiet. Gaku's eyes lock onto the dining table, noticing that a handwritten note has been left next to some freshly cooked food that was prepared for them. To Tojo, I rented a place of my own, so I'll be living there starting today. Feel free to come visit anytime. Ray. Gaku picks up the piece of paper and reads Ray's brief farewell note, realizing that she has officially moved out to live on her own. What's this about, Ray? You're not going to live with us anymore? Gaku's ally peers over his shoulder, his eyes wide with confusion and concern as he reads the note, wondering why Ray's suddenly decided to leave their shared home. Well, cramming into this dump with 5 guys? That's gotta be rough for a girl to handle. Gaku looks down at the dining table, realizing that living in a small, crowded apartment with 5 messy men must have been incredibly uncomfortable and overwhelming for a young woman like Ray. I might be single, but I know a woman's heart better than you do. Ray is clearly pissed off. Pissed off? What for? Gaku's street-smart ally pats him on the shoulder, pointing out that even though he is single, he understands a woman's feelings better, claiming Ray is clearly upset. Gaku, looking completely oblivious, asks what she could possibly be mad about. That's something only you would know. What exactly did you two do after we left that day? While a bottle of liquor is poured slowly into a glass, the ally replies that only Gaku would know, curiously asking what exactly happened between the two of them after everyone else left that day. Gaku sits silently, a dark shadow casting over his face as he holds the glass of liquor tightly, deeply lost in his own thoughts as he remembers that night. A flashback reveals Gaku and Ray walking down a dark, quiet street at night. Gaku walks with his hands in his pockets while Ray follows slightly behind him. Ray clasps her hands tightly against her chest, her expression filled with intense sadness, vulnerability, and unresolved pain as she looks up at Gaku. The one thing I regret most right now is that I didn't cherish myself before I met you. Suddenly, Rei runs forward and throws her arms around Gaku's back, clinging to him tightly. Tears stream down her face as she cries out in regret, admitting her biggest mistake was not valuing herself sooner. Then just start cherishing yourself from now on. Gaku turns around and firmly grabs Rei's shoulders. Looking directly into her tear-filled eyes, he tells her with absolute sincerity to simply start cherishing herself starting from this very moment. Did you know? I've actually been watching you ever since college. Back then, you were so pure, a little clumsy, but cute. The man I am now is the real me. Rei looks up at him with teary eyes, confessing that she has been watching him since college when he was pure, clumsy, and cute. However, Gaku keeps his distance, rubbing the back of his neck as he coldly replies that the ruthless man he is today is his true self. I even betrayed you once, so why go this far from me? Looking up at him with tears streaming down her face, Rei places her hand on Gaku's chest, pleading to know why he would risk so much for her, especially since she had betrayed him in the past. Like I said earlier, you're my friend, and I'd put my life on the line for a friend any day. Gaku looks down at her gently and places a reassuring hand near her face, telling her with absolute conviction that she is his friend, and he would gladly put his life on the line for any friend of his.
Just a friend?
Yeah, no matter what happens, you'll always be my best friend. Rei's heart sinks as she closes her eyes, tears spilling over as she softly whispers, just a friend? Gaku confirms her fears, smiling gently as he tells her that no matter what happens, she will always be his best friend, completely placing her in the friend zone. Did I say something wrong? Back in the present, Gaku sits at the dining table surrounded by plates of food, looking down with a confused expression as he asks his ally if he said something wrong. Look, I'll ask you straight up. Haven't you noticed that Rei is in love with you? His ally looks at him with utter disbelief, leaning forward over the dining table to ask him straight up if he has truly failed to notice that Rei is deeply in love with him. Don't be a fool. Of course I know that. But just look at the lives we live. We're barely scraping by day to day. We could drop dead in a ditch at any moment. How's a guy like that supposed to make a woman happy? I could never take responsibility for her. Gaku's expression darkens as he looks away, holding his drink. He reveals that of course he knows, but given the dangerous, unstable lives they live where they could die at any moment, a guy like him has no right to try and make a woman happy or take responsibility for her. So you're saying you don't hate her either? His ally grabs Gaku's shoulder as Gaku takes a sip of his drink, noting that Gaku's words prove he doesn't actually dislike her either, but is simply holding himself back. Right now, I don't have the luxury to even think about that sort of thing. I believe I don't have the right to ever be in a relationship. But from her perspective, she must think she was rejected because she's not good enough for you. That's why she left. Gaku sighs and sets his glass down, stating he doesn't have the luxury or the right to be in a relationship. His ally sighs back, explaining that from Rei's perspective, she feels rejected and thinks she wasn't good enough, which is why she ultimately chose to move out. Hick! Later that night, Gaku lies in bed under his blanket, staring blankly into the dark as he lets out a quiet hiccup, unable to fall asleep. Whoa, this is crazy luxurious! Gaku looks over at the other bed where his ally is sound asleep under the covers, snoring peacefully. Gaku opens his eyes wide as a loud voice suddenly echoes from outside, shouting about how crazy luxurious something is. Mr. Gaku, I've taken care of all the tasks you assigned. Gaku and his ally sit at the table in their suits as their two muscular allies enter, proudly holding up a sheet of paper and announcing that all of Gaku's assigned tasks have been successfully completed. Gaku is shown a newly printed promotional flyer featuring high-impact graphics and Japanese text announcing their grand opening event. Well done! This afternoon, hire 2 part-timers and have them distribute these flyers around the neighborhood. Gaku looks at the flyer and smiles, praising them for a job well done. He instructs them to hire 2 part-time workers that afternoon to distribute the flyers throughout the neighborhood to build maximum hype. Leave it to us! Holding his glass, the scarred ally gives a confident, eager grin, promising Gaku that they will take care of the flyer distribution without any issues. Mission complete on our end too! Tetsuya is on site supervising the interior work now, so it should be all done by tonight. The other allies sitting around the dining table join the conversation, announcing that their end of the mission is complete as well, with Tetsuya currently supervising the interior renovations, which should be finished by tonight. Alright then, this afternoon you'll work with Ui. Be careful no matter what. Gaku nods in approval, taking a sip from his glass as he tells them that they will be working with Ui this afternoon, warning them to remain extremely cautious no matter what. Don't worry about it. If we run into Snake's crew again, we'll bolt out of there in a flash. The ally smiles confidently, reassuring Gaku that if they happen to cross paths with Snake's crew again, they will simply make a quick escape and run away in a flash. Whoa, hold on, that's their turf. We don't stand a chance right now. With all that momentum, I figured you'd say we should just go crush them. We'll crush them all at once, as soon as Mr. Gaku's preparations are complete. Gaku's ally quickly objects, pointing out that Dynasty is Snake's turf and they stand no chance right now. However, the other ally grins, clarifying that once Gaku's preparations are fully complete, they will launch a coordinated strike to crush Snake's entire gang all at once.
Tetsuya, what about you? Tetsuya, this afternoon, could you go check on Amano? We really need her skills for managing the register and the staff. While you're at it, Gaku turns his attention to Tetsuya, asking him to go check on Amano this afternoon, emphasizing that her managerial skills are crucial for handling the register and the new staff. Get some change ready? Got it. As for me, I'm off to meet this guy they call Snake. Gaku instructs Tetsuya to get some cash change ready for the register, which Tetsuya quickly acknowledges. Gaku's eyes then turn cold and sharp as he holds up his glass, declaring that he is heading out to personally meet the rival boss known as Snake. Are you planning to clash with that crew already? The allies look at Gaku in shock and concern, demanding to know if he is really planning to provoke a direct conflict with Snake's crew so soon. No, not yet. Thorough reconnaissance is essential for victory. I'm heading to Dynasty Amusements today to scout out their movements. I'll contact you the moment anything happens, so stay ready. Gaku explains that they aren't fighting yet, as thorough reconnaissance is crucial for victory. He tells them he is heading to Dynasty Amusements to scout, promising to contact them immediately if anything goes wrong. But you beat those guys up earlier today. They know your face. Heading straight into their turf right now? Isn't that way too dangerous? Gaku's ally frowns with intense worry, pointing out that since Gaku brutally beat up Snake's thugs earlier, they already know his face, making it extremely dangerous to walk straight into their territory. Don't worry, in a place as chaotic as that, if I tweak my appearance a little, they won't recognize me so easily. Gaku smiles calmly, gesturing to his face as he reassures his crew that in a crowded, chaotic arcade like Dynasty Amusements, a simple disguise will prevent them from easily recognizing him. Mr. Gaku, there's no need for you to go out of your way. That kind of covert work is my specialty. His ally quickly nudges him, smiling as he volunteers for the job, claiming that stealth and undercover reconnaissance are his personal specialty. Just do as I say. I'll be the one taking these dangerous risks. Gaku places a firm hand on his ally's shoulder, shutting down the offer as he strictly orders him to follow instructions, insisting that he will be the one taking the dangerous risks. A disguised Gaku, wearing a black cap, a face mask, and a black shirt, casually walks through the main entrance of Dynasty Amusements while customers play nearby. A close-up of Gaku reveals his sharp, observant eyes scanning the environment from beneath his black baseball cap and mask, completely blending in. Inside Dynasty Amusements, the atmosphere is incredibly lively and packed. High school boys are intensely focusing on arcade games, while two schoolgirls energetically dance on a Dance Dance Revolution machine to loud music as a crowd cheers them on. Gaku sits down at an arcade cabinet, placing his hands on the joystick and buttons as he plays a game to maintain his cover while keeping an eye on his surroundings. Suddenly, the two beat-up thugs from Snake's gang, one with bandages on his face and the other with a bandaged head, walk right past Gaku, completely failing to recognize him. Gaku watches them closely from behind as they head toward the back door of the arcade, prompting him to adjust his cap and prepare to tail them. "Excuse me, Mr. Hyodo!" Slipping through the back door, the two thugs call out loudly for Mr. Hyodo, searching for their superior. And inside a private room equipped with a punching bag, a scarred man in a light suit is passionately kissing a woman in a sports bra who is sitting on his lap. The two thugs walk in, awkwardly interrupting them. "Mr. Hyodo, we got absolutely destroyed." One of the injured thugs steps forward, his face covered in bandages, crying out in distress as he confesses to Hyodo that they were completely decimated. Hyodo pulls away from the woman, his face twisting in irritation and anger as his romantic moment is abruptly ruined by the thug's dramatic entrance. "Who was the opponent, and how many?" I don't know. There are about 4 of them. We were just passing by the arcade on the corner when we noticed the shutter was open, so we went inside to check and..." Hyodo stands up and demands to know who attacked them and how many there were. Sweat dripping down his face, the thug stammers that they didn't know, but there are about 4 men who ambushed them after they entered the corner lot arcade to investigate. Enraged by the pathetic excuse, Hyodo suddenly unleashes a powerful, brutal punch straight to the thug's face, sending him flying. The punched thug crashes hard onto the floor, groaning in agony, while his bandaged companion watches in utter terror, sweating profusely. "You got decimated, and you don't even know who the enemy was? You guys are truly useless trash!" Hyodo flares with pure rage, his face contorted as he screams at them, calling them useless trash for getting defeated without even identifying their opponents.
I'm sorry, but we heard a rumor that they're holding a grand reopening for that shop tomorrow. Trembling with absolute fear, the other bandaged thug stammers out an apology, desperately adding that they heard rumors of a grand reopening taking place at that arcade tomorrow.
Oh, interesting. To think someone actually has the nerve to look down on Mr. Snake. Hyodo's angry expression shifts into a sinister, dark grin as he stands in front of his punching bag, finding it highly amusing that someone actually has the courage to defy Boss Snake's authority.
With a fierce grunt, Hyodo unleashes a powerful, high-flying kick that violently slams into the heavy punching bag, sending dust and debris flying into the air as he trains in his private room. Hyodo stands tall and menacingly over his defeated thugs, his face shadowed with a sinister, glowing-eyed grin as he declares, "We're gonna crash their party right when they open. We need to teach them exactly whose turf this is." Trembling in fear, the injured thugs quickly reply, "Yes, sir." Satisfied, Hyodo grins widely with a crazed expression, ordering, "Tell the crew to be ready to roll out with weapons tomorrow morning. Let's go get a good look at the mugs of these Death Wish bastards." Back inside Dynasty Amusements, a disguised Gaku calmly plays an arcade game as the two bandaged thugs walk right past him. One of the thugs angrily mutters, "Damn it, tomorrow I'm gonna crush those guys for sure." Gaku keeps his eyes focused on the game screen, watching from the corner of his eye as the thugs walk away. The other thug confidently boasts, "Hell yeah, with Mr. Hyodo on the job, punks like that will get dropped in a second." Outside the arcade entrance, Hyodo stands with his hands in his pockets, asking his men, "Is everyone here?" One of the blonde thugs looks back and replies, "No, I'm gonna go call a few more guys." Nearby, other gang members talk amongst themselves in the arcade lobby. One notes, "Someone picked a fight with Mr. Hyodo? They've got some nerve." Another joins in saying, "I hear the arcade on the corner is opening today. That's practically suicide." Gaku stands behind them, listening intently to their gossip. Taking advantage of his perfect cover, Gaku turns to one of the gang members and asks casually, "Hey, who exactly is this Mr. Hyodo?" The gang member turns to Gaku, surprised by his ignorance, and asks, "You don't know Mr. Hyodo? You the new guy or something?" Gaku plays along, prompting him further. "I mean, isn't this area supposed to be Mr. Snake's turf?" The gang member eagerly explains, "Yeah, since Mr. Snake just got released, he rarely shows his face in public. But even from prison, he ordered the removal of every rival gang that used to run this street. And his right-hand man, Mr. Hyodo, is the one who executed it. He's got incredible momentum right now." Hearing this, Gaku glares coldly under his cap, thinking, to possess such influence even from within the prison walls? If I want to crush Snake, then this Hyodo is the key. Suddenly, a thug in a purple shirt brandishes a wooden baseball bat inside the arcade, shouting to the crowd, "Some punks are trying to mess with our business. Anyone who wants to go wild, follow me." Gaku watches the gathering mob from the arcade machines. The thugs inside the arcade get riled up, raising their fists and shouting in excitement, "Yeah, and I'm in," as they prepare for a massive gang clash. The blonde thug leads the group out, calling over his shoulder, "Come on, everyone who's going, gather at the entrance." Gaku easily blends in, marching right behind them in his black shirt and mask. Walking down the street, the blonde thug notices Gaku walking alongside him without any weapon, looking at him with a suspicious and annoyed glare. The blonde thug stops and turns directly toward Gaku, looking up with an aggressive, confrontational expression. Squinting one eye and gritting his teeth, the blonde thug points his finger directly at Gaku's face, saying, "You." Gaku remains completely calm, turning his head to look back at the thug with a cool, unbothered expression beneath his cap and mask. The blonde thug confronts Gaku, demanding, "Didn't I tell you guys yesterday to prepare your own weapons?" He suddenly tosses his own heavy wooden bat over, adding, "I'm lending you this, so go smash the place up properly." Gaku catches the bat easily and replies, "Understood." A massive crowd of armed thugs marches down the street, led by a smoking Hyodo who has his white suit open to show off his chest tattoos. The blonde thug pats Gaku on the shoulder, calling out, "Hurry up, don't fall behind." Meanwhile, outside the newly renovated Zenith Amusements, Gaku's allies stand ready in sharp black suits. One of the main allies asks, "Is everyone here?" To which his partner confidently replies, "Yeah." One of Gaku's allies hands over a massive, tightly wrapped block of cash. Looking at the money, the other ally remarks with a sweat drop, Are we really going to just throw all this away? This is enough to buy a whole motorcycle, you know?" The leader of the group holds a megaphone, looking firmly at his partner as he explains, "These are Gaku's orders. We're doing this, no complaining." Holding the megaphone high, Gaku's ally addresses the massive crowd gathered outside the shop, shouting, "Everyone, today is the grand opening of our Zenith Amusements. We didn't open this place just to make a quick buck. We did it to create a safe place for all our friends to come and have fun. And so, to celebrate this amazing day, our owner is feeling incredibly generous. We're about to make it rain cash. It's finders keepers, so don't you dare hold back." The crowd of onlookers gasps in disbelief and excitement. One bystander laughs, "Coming here was the right call," while another asks, "Are they seriously going to throw money at us?" Suddenly, Hyodo and his massive crew of armed thugs arrive, interrupting the speech. Hyodo struts forward, spitting on the ground and sneering, "Quite the flashy display you're putting on." Gaku stands quietly in the back of the rival gang, blending in perfectly. Gaku's allies look down calmly at Hyodo's massive gang from the entrance of Zenith Amusements, completely unfazed by their threatening presence. Hyodo's expression turns dark and vicious as he orders his gang, "You lot, drag out their boss. I'm gonna crush him with my own 2 hands." Hyodo's thugs wave their weapons wildly in the air, charging forward while screaming, "Kill 'em all, get 'em, and yeah." Gaku holds his bat, moving along with the rushing crowd. In the midst of the chaos, Gaku's allies prepare to execute Gaku's secret strategy. The bystanders look on in shock, shouting, "Are they seriously just scattering cash everywhere?" And "Coming here was definitely the right call." Hyodo steps forward confidently, pointing his baseball bat at Gaku's allies and mocking, "You're really making a hell of a scene out here, huh?" Gaku watches Hyodo's movements closely from the back of the crowd, analyzing his fighting posture. Gaku silently notes to himself, "This guy, he's no amateur. I have to watch for an opening and take him out in one strike." Seeing Hyodo close in, Gaku's allies prepare for the clash, alerting each other, "He's here, get ready." Hyodo struts through the middle of the street, waving his bat and shouting to the crowd of bystanders, "Move it! Out of the way! Gawkers, get back!" Some of Gaku's arcade staff members look on with tense, nervous expressions as they prepare for the brawl to erupt at any second. With a confident grin, Gaku's ally throws a massive stack of high-value cash high into the air, scattering hundreds of bills over the crowd. A literal rain of cash flutters down from the sky. The charging thugs instantly lose all focus, looking up with wide, greedy eyes as they shout, "Money!" and "It's raining cash!" Hyodo's face contorts in absolute rage as his own gang members completely ignore the fight to scramble for the falling money. He screams, "Look at all this money! Shit, you bastards have a death wish? I said move it!" One of Hyodo's bandaged thugs is on his knees, happily scooping up bills from the ground, completely oblivious to Hyodo standing right behind him with a dark, furious expression. Enraged by his lackey's greed, Hyodo delivers a brutal, heavy kick straight to the bandaged thug's face, sending him flying backward with a painful "gah." Veins popping on his forehead, Hyodo screams at his distracted gang members, "Hey, you scum! Did you forget what we came here to do?" Hyodo raises his bat high in the air, pointing toward the store and commanding his remaining men, "Hurry up and smash the shop to pieces." A group of loyal thugs yells out, brandishing their bats and charging toward the store's entrance in a frantic stampede. Gaku's ally with the long black hair grins mischievously, completely relaxed as he says, Now, hold your horses. I brought a special little toy just for this occasion." With a dramatic flourish, he pulls out a massive, heavy string of red Chinese firecrackers, holding them up with a triumphant smile. He lights the fuse and throws the firecrackers right at the feet of the charging thugs, causing a wild barrage of loud explosions and bright sparks that catch the thugs off guard. The street erupts in a chaotic sequence of loud pops and smoke, forcing the charging thugs to halt in their tracks. Brandishing his bat, Hyodo screams in pure fury, "Pulling a cheap stunt like that? Don't think a single one of you is walking out of here in one piece." Grinning from ear to ear, Gaku's suited allies charge down the steps toward Hyodo's remaining men, shouting, "Come and get us!" One of Gaku's muscular allies easily lifts a rival thug in a bear hug, prompting the panicked thug to scream, "Hey, put me down! Let me down!" The street brawl begins in full force. Gaku's allies unleash devastating physical strikes, punching and throwing the armed thugs left and right as they easily dominate the battle.
Seen from a high-angle view, Gaku's skilled allies move with incredible speed and power, easily knocking out Hyodo's armed thugs and leaving them scattered across the pavement in a matter of seconds.
You guys are way too weak. Leaps through the air with a confident grin as one of Gaku's strongest allies, Sarawatari, easily overpowers Hyodo's thugs in a flurry of moves. With a powerful and devastating strike, Sarawatari slams a rival thug hard onto the pavement, sending a shower of blood and dirt flying as the street brawl intensifies. "You look like you're having a real blast. Beating up my men," mutters the intimidating figure of Hyodo, the open-shirt tattooed boss of the rival gang, who suddenly appears behind Sarawatari.
Saruwatari clicks his tongue, whispering "Tch," as he realizes a dangerous opponent has stepped onto the field. He's strong. I don't stand a chance, gasps Saruwatari as Hyodo strikes with terrifying speed and brute force, gripping his face and slamming his head brutally onto the hard asphalt. Hyodo ruthlessly pins a defeated Saruwatari to the ground, positioning himself over his body and raising a heavy wooden baseball bat high, ready to deliver a bone-shattering final blow. Suddenly, a sharp spray of dark blood splatters violently across a blank background, indicating a swift and unexpected intervention in the brutal clash. "Who the hell just blindsided me?" roars Hyodo, his face twisting in absolute shock and fury as he looks down to find a sharp knife embedded deep into his side. "I heard you were listening for me," declares a mysterious figure stepping out of the shadows. Gaku stands calmly behind the bleeding gang boss, his cap pulled low and his face covered by a mask as he holds a bloody kitchen knife. "I am Gaku Tojo, the manager of this shop. Let me be clear. Anyone who bares their fangs at me ends up dead," warns Gaku as he pulls down his mask, revealing his face and making his deadly intentions known. Hyodo grits his teeth in pain and warns him back, snarling, "You sure talk big, don't you? But make an enemy of Mr. Snake and you're gonna find yourself in hell." "Hell, huh? How nostalgic. Might be nice to get a taste of it again after all this time," smiles Gaku coldly, his eyes turning sharp and malicious. Below them, a police cruiser's siren bar flashes brightly as police sirens begin to wail in the distance. "Who the hell called the cops?" screams one of the rival gang members in a panic, sweat pouring down his face as the sound of approaching sirens signals that their time is up. "Mr. Hyodo, are you all right? What are your orders?" asks a blonde thug frantically as he rushes to his wounded boss's side, while Gaku stands calmly in the foreground watching their panic. "We're pulling back for now. They played us for fools this time, but I swear I'll pay them back for this," barks the bleeding Hyodo as his men support him and quickly retreat. Gaku watches them flee, shouting after them, "Consider this just a warning. Next time we come back, don't think any of you are walking away alive." "Hurry up and get Saruwatari to the hospital. Get the best doctor you can find to treat him," orders Gaku urgently, running over to support his beaten ally as the rest of the crew gathers around. "I'm okay, it's just my neck's a little stiff, is all," jokes Saruwatari, trying to reassure his worried friends with a weak, painful grin. Gaku holds him steady and promises, "Don't worry, I swear I'll make sure you pull through." Gaku's allies quickly lift the injured Saruwatari onto a member's shoulders, carrying him away to get immediate medical attention while Gaku watches with a heavy heart. "If he just gets stabbed and dies like that, what are we supposed to do?" asks Gaku's black-suited ally with concern, looking over his shoulder as they walk away from the scene of the crime. "Relax, I controlled the strike. I made sure to avoid his vitals and just get him in the side. I'd feel like crap if he just dropped dead from something like that," explains Gaku calmly. His ally nods, adding, "Even so, it takes one of their guys off the board and it serves as a perfect warning about what happens when someone defies you." "Maybe, but what if you get arrested again for all this?" wonders the ally quietly, looking down as he voices his deepest worry about Gaku's safety and freedom. "The mobile unit can't lay a hand on us anymore," smiles Gaku confidently, placing a firm, reassuring hand on his companion's shoulder. "Ow, can't you be a little more gentle with that? Grr," groans Hyodo in agony inside a private clinic, his back heavily tattooed with dragons as the medical team works to treat a stab wound. In a dimly lit office, two of Hyodo's thugs kneel submissively on the floor, trembling as a powerful figure in the foreground holds a smoking cigarette. "And just who was it?" asks the scarred, terrifying boss of the syndicate, Mr. Snake, as he exhales a cloud of smoke with a sinister, mocking smile. "He's the leader of some group I've never even heard of, a guy named Gaku Tojo," explains the bandaged Hyodo angrily from his hospital bed, his eyes wide with burning hatred. Mr. Snake slowly spins his office chair around, dressed in a sharp snakeskin patterned suit, exuding an aura of pure malice and absolute power. "Gaku Tojo, you say?" muses Mr. Snake with a cold, terrifying grin as a small white snake slithers around his neck, hissing softly. The scene flashes back to a sterile prison cell behind thick black bars where three inmates dressed in tan uniforms sit together in deep conversation. "I'm getting out of here tomorrow. If you need anything, just say the word. I'll help you out," offers Mr. Snake to a massive, bearded inmate sitting next to him. "There's a guy I need you to track down," says the massive giant of a man, his face cast in shadows and his eyes filled with a desire for vengeance. "What's his name?" asks Mr. Snake. The giant bearded inmate slams his fist down and roars, "Gaku Tojo, that bastard framed me. I swear I'll make him pay." Relax. No matter who he is, I'll drag him out and send him straight to hell, promises Mr. Snake with a reassuring pat on the giant's shoulder. The bearded man looks up, replying, "I'm counting on you." "Hurts like hell. Damn it," groans Hyodo back in the hospital room, gritting his teeth in frustration as he lies on his stomach recovering from Gaku's attack. "Looks like I'll have to head out there and handle this personally," says Mr. Snake, standing up and adjusting his suit as he prepares to deal with Gaku Tojo once and for all. "Some guys we've never seen before barged in out of nowhere and started beating the crap out of everyone in sight. They just went on a complete rampage," explains a civilian witness to several police officers outside the damaged Zenith Amusements arcade. "You've gotta catch them," pleads the angry civilian, his face flushed with rage as he urges the authorities to take immediate action against Hyodo's gang. "Are you the manager of this place?" asks a police officer with a clipboard, turning to Gaku, who nods silently and calmly. "Do you know who attacked you?" inquires the officer, looking closely at Gaku to get more information about the rival crew. "It was the crew from Dynasty Amusements, led by Hyodo. They're crushing all their business rivals in this area, one by one," lies Gaku smoothly. The officer hits his palm in anger, shouting, "Unbelievable! Those punks don't give a single damn about the law. Rest assured, we'll investigate this thoroughly and make sure they pay the price." They might come back for revenge, so could you protect us?" asks Gaku's ally, putting on a perfectly staged act of worry to get the police on their side. "Leave it to us. We've got your backs now. We won't let those punks do whatever they want anymore," smiles the officer proudly, pumping his fist as he promises full police protection. "We found the guy you asked us to track down," whispers Gaku's ally in his ear as soon as the police are out of earshot. "Have him wait on standby at a nearby cafe. The real showdown starts now," commands Gaku quietly, a sharp, serious look appearing in his eyes. Inside a quiet, warm cafe down the street, a waitress serves a fresh cup of coffee to a middle-aged, gray-haired man with glasses who is meeting with Gaku's ally. The gray-haired man looks out of the window, silently observing Gaku and the police officers wrapping up their investigation on the street. "I understand the situation. I will be recording everything from here on out," says the gray-haired man with absolute determination, adjusting his glasses. "If you do that, they might come after you for revenge," warns Gaku's ally, looking at him with deep concern. 8 years ago, my younger brother was murdered by Snake's gang, but due to a lack of evidence, he only got an 8-year sentence. While I was hunting for proof, they nearly chopped my arm off," reveals the gray-haired man, rolling up his sleeve to show a massive, horrific scar from his past battle. "That must have been rough. We share the same goal. We're taking Snake down," says Gaku's ally, extending his hand for a firm fist bump, united by their shared desire for justice. "The real enemy I'm facing is the massive criminal syndicate lurking in his shadows. The only reason that man can commit every atrocity imaginable and still walk free is because the big shots backing him are covering up his crimes," explains the man as a dark silhouette of Mr. Snake and his corrupt, powerful political backers looms behind him. A heavy silence falls over the table as the gray-haired man looks down, reflecting on the painful memory of his brother and the monumental, dangerous battle they are about to begin. With absolute determination, a hand firmly holds up a work permit ID card as the owner vows, "Even if it kills me, I'm going to stick to my convictions." Gaku stands silently in the foreground, his sharp gaze fixed on the quiet cafe where his ally and the gray-haired man are deep in conversation. A group of men strides purposefully down the paved street, led by a pair of feet clad in distinct snakeskin-patterned trousers, their footsteps echoing ominously. Exuding pure confidence and menace, Mr. Snake walks down the street at the head of a massive gang of thugs, completely unfazed by the flashing lights of a nearby police cruiser. Gaku's ally looks nervously over his shoulder as the rival gang approaches, muttering in disbelief. "They're back. Are the cops really going to protect us?" Gaku remains completely calm beside him. Clenching his fists and cracking his knuckles with a face contorted in pure rage, the large ally growls, "I'm gonna avenge Sorowatari." Gaku steps forward, his face cloaked in heavy shadow as he firmly restrains his furious companion. "No, do not lay a finger on them this time," Gaku commands quietly. The large ally stares at Gaku in complete disbelief and outrage, shouting, "What? You're telling us to just stand here and take a beating?" Gaku glares back with an icy, uncompromising look that brooks no argument, asserting, "Just do exactly as I say." A tense standoff ensues on the street as Mr. Snake's crew confronts Gaku's group, with several police officers standing as a barrier between them. In a sickening display of corruption, one of the police officers rubs his hands together submissively and greets the gang boss with a fawning smile, asking, "Mr. Snake, what brings you here?"
Mr. Snake ignores the officer and turns his terrifying scarred grin toward Gaku, saying mockingly, "So you're the ringleader." Mr. Snake casually addresses the officer while keeping his malicious eyes locked on Gaku, declaring, "Those punks stabbed one of my guys. I'm just here to settle the score. You don't have a problem with that, do you?" Sweat pouring down his face, the corrupt officer quickly points an accusing finger back at Gaku's group, shouting, "You pulled a blade? That makes you guys the real thugs here." The officer's expression shifts to a sickening, compliant grin as he bows to Mr. Snake and says, "I just remembered some urgent business back at the station. Feel free to handle this however you see fit." Dumbfounded and furious, Gaku's ally screams after the retreating authorities, "Hey, I thought you said you were going to protect us." The officer glances back with a cold, mocking sneer, retorting, "Protect you? You should be grateful we're not arresting you," as they walk away. With a loud screech of tires, the police car quickly speeds away, completely abandoning Gaku and his companions to the mercy of Mr. Snake's gang. Mr. Snake slowly pulls out a pack of cigarettes and coolly asks, "You're Gaku Tojo, right?" Gaku stands his ground, staring back with an unbothered, calm expression as he asks, "You know me?" Mr. Snake smiles coldly as he puts a cigarette in his mouth, responding, "No, but I made a promise to send you to hell, and I make it a policy to keep my word." A cold, daring smile spreads across Gaku's face as his eyes turn razor-sharp, replying, "Is that right? Then bring it on." Mr. Snake grins maniacally, raising his hand and commanding his eager thugs, "Go ahead, smash the place to your heart's content." Unable to hold back his rage, Gaku's massive ally steps forward to block the entrance, roaring, "I'd like to see you try." Gaku quickly intervenes, giving his ally a sharp, stern look as he commands, "Stand down, let them do whatever they want." The thugs immediately unleash their violence, swinging heavy wooden bats and metal pipes to shatter the glass storefront of the amusement center while the large ally is forced to watch helplessly. Inside the arcade, the brutal gang members go on a complete rampage, laughing as they violently smash the expensive arcade machines to pieces. Trembling with pure frustration, his fists clenched so hard his veins bulge, the large ally screams internally, "Why the hell can't we fight back?" Gaku steps closer to Mr. Snake, taunting him with a calm smile. "Are you satisfied with just trashing the shop? I hope you haven't forgotten that I'm the one who stabbed your man." Mr. Snake's face twists with rage as he cracks his neck, snarling back, "Oh, I know, and I'm going to make you pay that debt in full." With terrifying speed and power, Mr. Snake unleashes a devastating punch directly to Gaku's face, sending a violent spray of blood into the air. Before Gaku can even recover, Mr. Snake follows up with a brutal high kick that sends Gaku crashing heavily onto the asphalt. Gaku lies on the ground, coughing up blood, prompting his large ally to panic and shout in rage, "What the hell are you doing to the boss?" Gaku raises his voice, his bloodied face twisted in desperation, as he commands his ally once more, "Stop! I told you to let them do whatever they want." Mr. Snake calmly reaches out and takes a heavy wooden baseball bat from one of his waiting thugs, his eyes filled with sadistic intent. Through the window of the cafe, the horrifying scene unfolds as Mr. Snake mercilessly beats Gaku with the bat, while the gray-haired man watches intently from the side. Gritting his teeth in torment inside the cafe, the ally growls, "That bastard," as he remembers Gaku's strategic words. The only reason Snake can do whatever he wants in this old town is because he has someone even higher up backing him. Unless we drag that guy out into the open, we can't defeat Snake. In their flashback, Gaku's ally had asked with deep concern, "Then what do we do? Should we just give up on the shop and avoid Snake?" Gaku had replied with an intense, calculated gaze, "No, taking down the big shot backing him is impossible right now. First, we need to think of a way to make them cut Snake loose." Back in the present, the gray-haired man peers through the lens of a professional camera, snapping photos of the brutal beating with a grim smile as he whispers, "That's it, tear it up even more. I'm making sure to record all of this." A heavy, blood-spattered wooden bat clatters loudly onto the hard pavement, signaling the end of the one-sided assault. Gaku lies completely motionless on the ground, a dark pool of blood slowly spreading around his battered body as Mr. Snake looms over him like a victorious predator. Gaku's allies rush over in absolute panic, crying out, "Mr. Gaku!" while Mr. Snake turns to leave, shouting back mockingly, "Remember this, in this town I make the rules. If you even think about opening this shop again, I'll slaughter you for real next time." Trembling with pure rage, Gaku's large ally screams after the smug boss, "You bastard, you'll rot in hell for this." Mr. Snake merely sneers in response, boasting arrogantly, "Ha! The cops, the prosecutors, the courts, they're all in my pocket. Even if I killed the lot of you and fed you to the snakes, no one would dare come after me."
Exuding absolute arrogance, Mr. Snake turns his back on the bloodied scene and slowly strolls away, fully confident in his complete immunity. In a final act of ultimate disrespect, Mr. Snake spits directly onto Gaku's bloodied face as he lies defenseless on the cold ground. Mr. Snake raises a hand to his gang, shouting, "All right, boys, we're pulling out," as his men prepare to follow him. Even while lying beaten and bloody on the asphalt, a subtle, cold smile slowly plays across Gaku's lips, revealing that everything has gone exactly according to his plan. The gang of thugs disappears down the street, leaving behind a heavily damaged shop and a pool of fresh blood on the pavement. Standing in a dimly lit cafe, Gaku's ally in a sleek black suit turns to the gray-haired photographer and asks with an intense expression, "Did you manage to record all of that?" Looking down at his camera with a victorious grin, the gray-haired man adjusts his glasses and responds confidently, "Perfectly. With this evidence, Snake's gang is guaranteed to get the punishment they deserve." Outside, Gaku's allies rush down the street in absolute panic as one of them yells out in shock upon seeing their leader lying motionless and bloodied on the pavement. "Gaku!" Running as fast as his legs can carry him, the large suit-clad ally carries a heavily injured, unconscious Gaku on his back, frantically shouting, "Hang in there, I'm getting you to a hospital right now." In a quiet hospital ward, a nurse stands beside the young, black-haired ally who is wearing a neck brace, gently gesturing as she cautions him, "Please get some rest. If you move around, your condition will only worsen." Giving a broad, carefree smile despite his neck brace, the young man tries to put the nurse's mind at ease, playfully claiming, I know, I might not look it, but I'm the type who actually follows instructions." Suddenly, the loud sound of the hospital door sliding open rings through the room, causing the young man to glance over his shoulder in surprise. Throwing his hospital blanket aside with a look of determination, the young man swings his legs out of bed, muttering, "Geez, Mr. Gaku and the guys need me right now. Like hell, I'm just gonna sit around and rest." Just as he prepares to leave, the hospital door is pushed open as Gaku's allies anxiously wheel in a rolling bed carrying Gaku, whose body is wrapped head to toe in bandages. A close-up reveals Gaku lying completely motionless, his face taped with white bandages and his chest heavily wrapped in gauze, resting silently after the brutal assault. The young man in the neck brace stares in utter horror at Gaku's battered body, his eyes wide as he yells out in disbelief, "Mr. Gaku, what the hell happened to you?" Gaku's sharp-eyed ally looks down with a solemn expression, trying to reassure him by explaining, "According to the doctor, it's not as bad as it looks. It's mostly just bruises and scrapes. His life isn't in danger." Gritting his teeth, the young man in the neck brace looks at his companion and asks, "Was this Snake's doing?" Only for Gaku's ally to grimly confirm, "Yeah." Boiling with anger, the young man raises a clenched fist and shouts in pure frustration, "Damn it, that bastard! I'm gonna kill him right now!" Before he can even take a step, a massive hand suddenly reaches out from behind and firmly grabs him by the neck, stopping him in his tracks. Wincing as he is held in place by their giant companion, the young man struggles and yells, "Ow! Why the hell are you stopping me, you big oaf?" Closing his eyes to maintain his composure, the sharp-eyed ally in the suit instructs him, "Calm down. This is all part of Gaku's plan." The young man in the neck brace and his companions freeze, their eyes wide with surprise as they realize Gaku planned for all of this to happen. Standing over the sleeping Gaku, the ally explains the depth of their leader's resolve. "He took this beating on purpose just so we could crush Snake. So for now, we have no choice but to sit tight and wait. Wait for the bullet he fired to hit its mark." Suddenly, the hospital door is flung open as Rei, a young woman in a blue off-the-shoulder top, bursts into the ward with tears streaming down her face, screaming Gaku's name. Rushing directly to the side of the hospital bed, Rei looks down at Gaku's heavily bandaged body in complete distress, crying out, "Is he okay?" Gaku's sharp-eyed ally steps up behind her, gently placing a hand on her shoulder to comfort her as he quietly says, "Rei?" In a sudden burst of grief and frustration, Rei spins around and delivers a powerful, stinging slap across the ally's face, the sharp sound echoing through the room. The rest of Gaku's companions in the room stare in complete, wide-eyed shock, stunned by her sudden outburst of pain and anger. Gaku's ally stands completely still and takes the blow in silence, a faint red slap mark beginning to show on his cheek. Tears stream down Rei's face as she clutches her chest, yelling in bitter anguish and deep sorrow. "What were you all doing? Why did you let this happen to Gaku?" Raising his hands in a defensive, apologetic manner, the massive ally tries to calm her down, explaining, "Miss Rei, please listen. The truth is, this was all Mr. Gaku's plan." Her voice cracking with emotion, Rei cries out in anguish, "Even so, how could you just stand there and watch him get beaten like that right in front of you?" A weak but steady voice suddenly cuts through her tears as Gaku, lying in his hospital bed, assures her, "Don't worry, I'll be fine." Rei leans over the side of the bed, weeping as she looks down at his bandaged face, sobbing, "Gaku, I'm so sorry. I couldn't be there for you when you were in danger. This is all my fault." Looking up at her with a calm, reassuring smile despite his injuries, Gaku gently scolds her. "Don't be ridiculous. This was all a strategic move to crush Snake." Gaku slowly turns his head toward his sharp-eyed ally, immediately returning his focus to their mission as he asks, "What's the status of the shop?" With a grim and somber expression, the ally delivers the devastating news. Those bastards completely trashed the place. Every single arcade cabinet was destroyed. The newly installed glass was shattered to pieces, too. We easily lost tens of millions. Instead of being upset, a wide, triumphant smile spreads across Gaku's face as he closes his eyes and happily exclaims, "Is that so? That's fantastic!" Gaku's companions look down at him from a high angle, utterly bewildered by his joy. The young man in the neck brace asks in concern, "Mr. Gaku, did getting beaten that badly mess with your head?" But Gaku's trusted ally explains their masterstroke. Following Gaku's orders, they caught the entire assault on camera, and within a few days, the shocking footage will be splashed all over the TV and newspapers. Gaku's friends stand in stunned silence, their expressions shifting as the sheer, calculated brilliance of Gaku's self-sacrifice slowly sinks in. Lying back in his hospital bed, Gaku explains the grand scale of his master plan. The only way to expose Snake's tyranny and his corrupt ties with the MIU is to weaponize public opinion. We'll put pressure on his backers and force them to cut Snake loose, and we'll launch our counterattack the exact moment they do. A look of deep admiration spreads across the face of the neck-braced young man as he smiles warmly and says, "So you had a scheme like that cooked up, huh? You're amazing." Closing his eyes with a peaceful, confident expression, Gaku smiles as he rests, declaring, "Now all we have to do is wait for the uproar to spread." High above the city in a luxurious office, a powerful man in a suit stands by the window, looking out over the skyline while a news anchor on his monitor reports, "It has come to light that a criminal syndicate led by Snake carried out acts of large-scale vandalism and assaulted the owner of a rival business." The news report continues, broadcasting the graphic, secretly recorded footage of Gaku's brutal beating. The broadcasted footage shows gruesome acts of violence, and it appears the police failed to take appropriate action at the scene. The ward mayor, a middle-aged man with sharp glasses, slams his hand violently onto his desk in sheer fury, shouting, "That bastard Snake, causing trouble the second he gets out of prison, and now the media's sniffing around? This is going to completely ruin my standing as ward mayor." Gritting his teeth, the ward mayor picks up his office telephone and quickly dials a number, desperate to contain the massive political fallout. In another office, a desk is covered with neat stacks of $100 bills being counted by hand, while the telephone on the desk rings persistently. Puffing on a cigar, a corrupt, slick-haired backer answers the phone with a simple, "Hello?" only to be met with the ward mayor's frantic, screaming voice. "What the hell are you doing? The news is broadcasting that Snake is colluding with the MIU to brutalize citizens. If this uproar gets any bigger, even I won't be able to cover for you." The corrupt backer laughs off the mayor's panic, flashing an arrogant grin as he confidently proposes, "Please, rest assured, if we just hit the officers who were at the scene that day with disciplinary charges for neglect of duty, it'll all blow over, won't it?" A sinister, calculating smile spreads across the backer's face as he continues to lay out his damage control plan. Hell, to quiet the public down, I wouldn't even mind giving Snake a fake arrest just for show. In his dark office, the ward mayor uses a silver metal lighter to ignite a flame, preparing to light a cigarette as he listens to his corrupt partner's scheme. Inhaling deeply on his cigarette, the ward mayor responds with cold, murderous intent. "That's not a bad idea. But right now, our biggest problem is the reporter who wrote that article. We can't let them live. Do whatever it takes to eliminate them. Make sure of it." A terrifying, dark grin spreads across the corrupt backer's face as his eyes turn ice cold, replying with absolute malice, "Understood. Consider it done." An angry crowd of citizens and Gaku's allies march through the streets in protest. Banners are raised high as a man with black hair raises his fist, shouting with all his might, "Down with violence, give us back a safe city to live in, and end the collusion," to protest against the corruption of the MIU and Snake's gang. From inside a building, a scarred man with long black hair and a tattooed neck stands by the window, watching the protesters outside. The chants of "End the collusion" and "Down with violence, give us back a safe city to live in" echo clearly through the glass, making his expression grow dark. Frowning deeply, the long-haired man turns away from the window, his face contorted in anger and suspicion. He mutters to himself in disbelief, "Things have gotten a little complicated. Is this all Tojo's doing?" realizing that their enemies might have outmaneuvered them. Behind him, a muscular ally with short dark hair, a scarred face, and elaborate chest tattoo stands up, clutching his chest, which is bandaged underneath his white suit. He aggressively suggests, "Mr. Snake, we'll go chase off the mob downstairs. We'll crush anyone making a racket, one by one." Snake, wearing a snakeskin patterned suit jacket, looks back at his ally with an irritated expression, a white snake coiled around his hand. He snaps, "Are you an idiot? If a reporter catches us on camera again, we really will be finished this time." His muscular subordinate grits his teeth in frustration, asking, "Then what are we supposed to do? That bastard Tojo pulling such a cheap trick?" Before vowing, "The next time I see him, I swear I'll kill him with my own 2 hands.
A sinister smile spreads across Snake's face as he looks at the white snake slithering around his hand. The snake hisses softly as Snake reassures his subordinate with dark confidence. "Don't worry, we have backers on our side."
Outside the building, several police officers in white uniform shirts and black ties step out of a patrol car. The leading officer, a sharp-eyed man with a scar on his cheek, looks forward with a stern and determined expression. 2 of Gaku's allies watch the arriving police from the sidewalk. The black-haired young man looks skeptical, turning to his companion and asking in disbelief, "Do you think they seriously came to arrest Snake?" The lead officer spreads his arms wide, pushing back the crowd of protesters gathered in front of the building. He barks loudly, "You are obstructing an ongoing investigation. Everyone, please disperse immediately. We are now taking Snake into custody." Inside the building, a blond man looks on with a smug grin as the group of police officers strides confidently past arcade cabinets towards the back rooms, clearly putting on a show for the public. The police officers enter Snake's office, standing respectfully before him. The lead officer addresses Snake politely, explaining, "Mr. Snake, we've come to pick you up. Let's have you take refuge at the station for now. It's just a show for the mob downstairs, so could you please cooperate with us as a formality?" Snake calmly lets his white snake slide across his hand. Snake smirks as he strokes his pet snake, replying smoothly, "Very well. It's been a while, so perhaps I'll share a cup of tea with the chief of the East Station." He then raises his voice, calling out to his scarred subordinate, "Hyodo, bring the highest quality gift we have." Flanked by police officers on either side, Snake calmly walks out of the building towards the police car, keeping his hands casually inside his pockets. Behind him, Hyodo follows close behind, both of them showing absolutely no signs of fear. Gaku's allies stand in the crowd watching Snake being escorted away. Their faces are grim, showing intense frustration as they realize this arrest is nothing more than a carefully orchestrated facade. Snake looks over his shoulder as he prepares to enter the police car, closing his eyes with a mocking, self-satisfied grin, clearly enjoying his victory over the protesters. Gritting his teeth in pure anger, Gaku's black-haired ally stares at Snake's retreating figure. He internally seethes, realizing the corrupt truth behind the scene. No, this is just an act. In a brightly lit office, a high-ranking officer in a police uniform, holding a burning cigar, looks down with a serious and slightly tense expression at someone sitting across his desk. A greedy grin spreads across the police chief's face as he looks down at a thick stack of $100 bills sitting on his desk. Inhaling from a cigar, he says mockingly, well, you really didn't need to go out of your way to bring a gift." Sitting across from him, Snake holds a lit cigarette and leans back casually in his chair, completely unfazed by the chief's authority. He smirks and says flatly, "Drop the act." "So, what do you want?" The police chief's smug expression vanishes as he grabs a brown manila envelope from his desk. Looking stressed and sweating slightly, he warns Snake, "The ward mayor is absolutely furious about that arcade incident. If this ends up affecting his career, both you and I are going to be eliminated." Snake remains completely relaxed, crossing his legs in the armchair. He scoffs dismissively, saying, "There's no need to make such a massive fuss over a little issue like this. You're overreacting. I owe the ward mayor a favor, sure, but I can't just sit back and stay quiet when I'm being threatened like this." Standing with the manila folder in his hands, the chief of police insists firmly, "It may indeed be a trivial matter, but it will become extremely troublesome for us if it goes public." Snake leans forward, his eyes turning cold and sharp as his mouth twists into a cruel grin. He reaches out for the folder and says, "We have identified the source of that news report. To prevent any further incidents, there is only one thing we must do." Inside the folder, Snake reveals a document containing a profile picture and personal information. The text reads, "Name, Hei Hayashi, gender, male, year of birth, 1986. With murderous intent," Snake declares, "Silence this reckless fool permanently." Taking a drag from his cigarette, Snake's expression grows terrifyingly sadistic as he glares down at the profile of their target. He mutters with chilling malice, "Perfect timing. My pet snake has been craving a taste of human flesh anyway." Back at the hospital, Gaku sits upright in his hospital bed, his upper body heavily wrapped in bandages as he reads a book. Suddenly, his two companions burst into the room in a panic, one of them yelling, "This is an emergency! Harimoto from the MIU just hauled Snake away."
Gaku's young ally, wearing a neck brace, stands up, raising a fist with a joyful smile as he says, "That's great news, ain't it? That means our enemy is out of the picture." Meanwhile, Gaku looks on with a tense and worried expression.
Gaku's eyes widen in realization and panic. He grits his teeth, sweating as he shouts in distress, "This is bad! Hayashi is in danger!" realizing that Snake's arrest was just a cover to launch a deadly retaliation. Outside a residential building, a large silver van pulls up silently by the stairs of the entrance. The scene is quiet, but the arrival of the vehicle signals that danger is imminent. The side doors of the van slide open as a group of armed thugs steps out. Hyodo, leading the group with a wooden sword in hand, looks menacingly at the building. He commands, "According to the chief of the East Station, there's no doubt this is where Hayashi is hiding. We're gonna send that bastard straight to hell." Hyodo turns to two of his men, pointing back at the building as he instructs them, "You two stay here. If he tries to escape through a window, take him out." They quickly bow and reply, "Yes, sir." Waving his hand to gather the rest of the gang, Hyodo barks, "The rest of you, follow me," as they prepare to storm Hayashi's hiding place. Armed with wooden swords and metal pipes, Hyodo and his men march determinedly up the concrete staircase of the building, their faces masked in shadow and filled with murderous intent. The gang arrives at a quiet apartment door inside the hallway. A tense silence fills the corridor as they position themselves to breach the entrance. Without warning, one of the thugs delivers a powerful kick straight to the center of the wooden apartment door, shattering the lock as they force their way inside. With a loud battle cry, Hyodo and his men rush through the broken doorway, swords and pipes raised high, expecting to ambush an undefended target. To their absolute surprise, the apartment is not empty. Inside, Gaku's allies are already waiting for them, completely relaxed and armed with bats and pipes. The young ally, sitting on the sofa with a neck brace and smoking a cigarette, smiles smugly and says, "Oh, you finally made it. Why don't you come on in?" Standing beside the couch, Gaku's companion clenches his fist, a dark shadow over his eyes and a confident grin on his face. He declares eagerly, "I was getting tired of waiting. Let's settle all our old scores once and for all." Hyodo, though briefly caught off guard, quickly regains his composure and sneers arrogantly. He taunts them, saying, "Ha, do you really think a bunch of small fries swarming together can actually protect him?" Holding a heavy metal pipe in his hands, Gaku's large black-haired ally steps forward, glaring intensely at Hyodo. With cold fury, he demands to know, "Was it you who injured Saruwatari?" The large ally looks back at his companion in the neck brace, his face determined and deadly serious. He tells him firmly, "I'm going to settle the score with this guy myself. Stay out of it." Losing his patience, Hyodo points his wooden sword directly at Gaku's allies, screaming in rage, "Enough with the damn chatter. Hey, you bastards, get him!" With a loud roar, Snake's thugs rush forward into the living room, swinging their weapons wildly as they clash with Gaku's waiting defenders. Suddenly, Gaku's allies swing buckets, splashing a large amount of liquid directly onto the faces and clothes of the charging thugs. The thugs stumble back in confusion, wiped in the wet substance. Their leader coughs and splutters, shouting in disbelief, "Whoa, what the hell is this?" The young man in the neck brace smirks and yells out a command to his team, "Cut the lights!" With a loud click, the apartment is plunged into pitch-black darkness. Snake's thugs look around in confusion, completely blinded by the sudden loss of light. Suddenly, the liquid splashed on them begins to glow brightly in the dark. The lead thug panics as he realizes their trap, screaming, "It's glow-in-the-dark paint! Watch out!" Before he can finish his warning, a heavy wooden bat swings through the darkness, striking him squarely in the face with a brutal crack. Blood splatters as he's sent crashing to the floor, leaving his companion shouting in absolute panic. What happened? Completely visible due to the glowing paint, the remaining thugs swing their weapons wildly in the dark, unable to see their attackers. They yell in frustration, "Watch your back!" and "Damn it, show yourself!" as Gaku's allies easily circle around them in the pitch-black room, ready to strike. In the pitch-black apartment, the chaotic brawl erupts in full force. Gaku's allies swing heavy weapons, striking Snake's thugs in the dark. The sound of brutal blows echoes as wood and metal clash against flesh, leaving the thugs crying out in pain and confusion as the glowing paint makes them easy targets. Hyodo, Snake's scarred subordinate, stands at the entrance of the dark room, flanked by two of his men. His eyes are wide with tension and shock as he takes in the chaotic situation unfolding inside. With incredibly sharp reflexes, Hyodo tilts his head back effortlessly, easily dodging a heavy pipe that swings past his face with a whistling swoosh. Gaku's black-haired ally lunges forward with a furious punch, but Hyodo intercepts the strike mid-air, gripping the young man's wrist firmly and stopping his momentum instantly.
Smirking cruelly, Hyodo drives his knee hard into the young man's midsection. The brutal impact sends a shockwave through the black-haired fighter, completely knocking the wind out of him. As the black-haired ally slides backward across the floor, clutching his stomach, Hyodo boasts arrogantly, "My eyes have already adjusted. Did you really think you could beat me with such cheap, childish tricks?" He then draws his weapon, ready to slice through Gaku's allies. Undeterred, Gaku's black-haired ally recovers quickly and unleashes a powerful right hook, smashing a thug directly in the face and sending blood splattering into the air. Grit and rage filling his face, the black-haired ally charges forward to throw a desperate punch at Hyodo, determined to take the leader down. Hyodo casually sways his body back, easily evading the massive swing with a smug, mocking expression on his scarred face. With lightning speed, Hyodo counters with a devastating roundhouse kick, striking Gaku's ally squarely in the face. Blood sprays from the impact as the young man is sent crashing to the floor. Standing tall and looking down at his defeated opponent, Hyodo smiles sadistically and taunts, "Brute strength alone isn't enough to take me down." In the background, the rest of the fighters continue their brutal struggle, swinging pipes and bats against each other in a desperate attempt to gain the upper hand. Looking down at Gaku's cornered allies, Hyodo gloats triumphantly, saying, "Out of tricks already? No matter how you struggle, it's meaningless before a true powerhouse." Suddenly, a blinding beam of light pierces the darkness, shining directly into Hyodo's eyes. Blinded and caught completely off guard, he grimaces in agony, screaming, "Gah, my eyes!" Standing behind the bright light with a powerful tactical flashlight, Gaku's ally in the neck brace smiles triumphantly and shouts, "Stop acting so high and mighty." Seizing the perfect distraction, Gaku's black-haired ally recovers and swings a heavy weapon downward, delivering a powerful, crushing blow straight to the top of Hyodo's head. Meanwhile, back at the hospital, Gaku sits upright in his bed, his body completely covered in white medical bandages. A short-haired young woman in a blue off-the-shoulder shirt sits beside him. Trying to reassure her, Gaku says gently, "Don't worry, if they do exactly what I told them, they'll definitely be fine." The young woman looks down with a deeply worried and somber expression. She implores him, "You're the one I'm most worried about. Listen, once this whole thing is over, promise me you'll stop fighting and just live a peaceful life." Gaku looks back at her with a soft, affectionate smile through the bandages on his face, replying, "Yeah, once I get my hands on Snake's dynasty, I'll leave this life behind." Her eyes widen in utter shock as she asks, "Could it be? Was dynasty your goal from the very beginning?" Gaku quickly changes the subject with a warm laugh, saying, "Forget about that. More importantly, thanks for staying by my side all this time. You're probably exhausted, right? Go home and get some rest." Standing up to leave, she looks at Gaku with a lingering, anxious gaze, saying, "Then I'll head home now." Gaku softly replies, "Yeah." She stops at the doorway and turns her head back slightly, calling out softly, "Hey." Looking back at her from his hospital bed, Gaku asks curiously, "What is it?" Gaku watches her with a gentle, caring gaze, telling her, "Be careful on the way back." The young woman looks down, her face filled with an unreadable, anxious expression as she quietly responds, "Yeah." Walking down the city street alone at night, she looks lost in thought. Behind her, couples walk past under the streetlights while a dark car sits idling by the curb. Suddenly, the car stops abruptly with a loud screech of tires, catching her attention. She turns around, startled by the vehicle's sudden presence. Inside the dark vehicle, a shadowed man sitting in the driver's seat speaks her name, Rei Amano. Rei's expression turns sharp and defensive. Glaring at the stranger, she demands, "Who are you? What do you want with me?" The man steps out of the car, revealing himself to be a tall, muscular man with gray hair, a deep scar over his left eye, and tribal tattoos on his arms. Wearing a Hawaiian shirt over a black tank top, he smiles menacingly and says, "I'm Choji. Master Snake asked me to come pick you up." The scene cuts to a title card marking the transition, dramatically displaying the title logo of the manhwa and indicating Chapter 33. Back in the quiet hospital room, Gaku lies back in his bed, letting out a heavy, exhausted sigh as he reflects on his situation. Suddenly, the peaceful silence is shattered by shouting outside his door. An angry hospital staff member yells, "Hey, who do you think you are? Visiting hours are strictly over," only to be pushed aside as a gruff voice barks, "Move it! Get out of my way!" Recognizing the immediate danger, Gaku snaps alert and springs out of bed, his eyes narrowing as he prepares for a fight. The door is kicked open with a loud bang, and a group of muscular assassins bursts into the room. Leading them is a bald, intimidating thug wearing a gray tank top and wielding a massive, broad-bladed meat cleaver. The bald assassin points his weapon at him and demands, "You're Gaku Tojo, right?" Gaku stands defensively on his bed, brandishing a small kitchen knife in one hand and a heavy metal thermos in the other. Without a second thought, Gaku hurls the metal thermos straight at the leading assassin with incredible speed.
The thermos strikes the bald thug directly in the face, bursting open and splashing scalding hot water all over him. He screams in agonizing pain as the liquid burns his skin. Clutching his burned face, the furious leader points ahead and roars to his men, "Get him!" as the other assassins charge forward with weapons raised. With agile, cat-like reflexes, Gaku leaps straight out of the open fourth-story window, diving into the open air. The bald leader rushes to the window, his face contorted in disbelief as he screams, "You gotta be shitting me, we're on the 4th floor." The assassins crowd around the shattered window, looking down in complete shock and disbelief at what they just witnessed. Down on the street below, Gaku lands perfectly on his feet, completely unharmed. Looking up at the stunned assassins, he smirks and defiantly flips him the middle finger. Furious at the mockery, the bald leader's face twists with murderous rage. He screams after him, "That cocky bastard, I'm gonna fucking kill him!" In their rush to pursue him, the thugs stampede down the hallway, accidentally knocking over a terrified nurse who screams in panic. Gaku sprints down the dark city street. As he runs, he violently tears off the tight medical bandages covering his torso, allowing himself to move and breathe more freely. As Gaku runs past the curb, he dashes right by the parked black sedan. Inside the back seat, Rei looks out the window in absolute shock as she catches sight of him running. Rei presses her hand against the glass, tears welling in her eyes as she desperately shouts his name, "Gaku!" Choji leans over from the front seat, looking at her with a cruel, mocking grin as he says, "He's as good as dead anyway. Now come on, we're going to see Mr. Snake." Rei is left completely devastated, tears streaming down her face as she watches Gaku run further into danger, feeling entirely helpless. In a quiet street, Gaku finally stops running and turns around, holding his knife. The assassins catch up and surround him, their leader snarling, "You little shit, did you really think you could get away? Mr. Snake ordered us to bring your head back." Gaku smiles confidently, replying, "I wasn't running away, don't get the wrong idea. I just picked a spot where there'd be no witnesses." The assassins stare at him, sweating as they realize they've walked straight into his trap. Gaku Tojo, his muscular torso bare and wrapped in medical bandages, stands tall in the shadows, holding a glowing white knife. With a single shining eye piercing the darkness, he confidently challenges his enemies, "Bring it on." A sleek black sedan screeches to a sudden halt outside a concrete warehouse building, its tires making a loud squeal as it pulls up. Choji, the muscular tattooed subordinate in a Hawaiian shirt, escorts a grim-faced Rei Amano toward the entrance. Below them, a deep concrete pit is filled to the brim with writhing, hissing black snakes. Walking into the room, Choji addresses Master Snake, who is sitting in a leather chair with his back turned, smoking a cigarette. "Mr. Snake, just as expected, Tojo didn't have any guards around him. He should be turned into mincemeat by now, and I've brought Rei Amano with me." From his chair, Snake calmly responds, "Well done." Glaring with intense anger and fear, Rei demands, "What? What the hell do you want?" Snake slowly turns his head, revealing his scarred, sinister face, and sneers cruelly. "Nothing to be afraid of, little lady. Tojo is no longer of this world. Those who cross me never meet a pleasant end." Sitting comfortably in his chair and exhaling cigarette smoke, Snake gestures as one of his thugs approaches, carrying a clear plastic container filled with squeaking white and gray feeder mice. The thug holds up the transparent container, inside of which dozens of frantic feeder mice scramble and squeak loudly, completely unaware of their impending fate. With a sadistic smirk, Snake takes the container and dumps the helpless mice directly into the dark snake pit below. A giant gray serpent instantly snaps its jaws open and swallows a mouse whole in a single brutal bite. Looking on with a dark grin, Snake remarks, "I've been hearing rumors about Tojo since my time behind bars. I thought he was just some greenhorn, but it seems he's quite sharp." Snake turns his gaze toward Rei, his expression cold and calculating as he continues. "But there is one thing I just can't wrap my head around. How can a man guilty of murder and breaking out of prison brazenly fight me for turf as if nothing happened?" Rei glares back at him with fierce, unwavering defiance, her eyes wide with rage as she retorts, "I have absolutely nothing to say to you. I hate to break it to you, but I'm going back to Gaku." Choji suddenly steps in and delivers a brutal backhand slap across Rei's face, snapping her head to the side as he barks, "I told you, Tojo is dead! You better hurry up and answer Mr. Snake's questions, or we'll turn you into snake food." Undeterred, Rei spits back, "Gaku would never lose to a bunch of cheap street punks, and like I said, I have absolutely nothing to tell you people." Furious at her defiance, Choji raises his hand to strike her again, but Snake suddenly commands, "Wait," stopping him in his tracks. Standing in the shadows, Snake walks up behind them and says smoothly, "It's rude to force a lady against her will." Looking down at the writhing pit of aggressive serpents below, Snake smiles chillingly and says, "I was just worrying that those mice from earlier wouldn't be quite enough to feed my snakes." Suddenly, Choji shoves Rei hard from behind, forcing her directly into a large iron cage set up right next to the snake pit as she cries out in surprise, "Ah!" Working quickly, a thug slams the heavy cage door shut and locks it securely with a thick metal padlock. Rei grabs the iron bars, her eyes wide with terror as she gasps, "What are you doing?" With a loud mechanical groan, the iron cage containing the terrified Rei is hoisted high into the air by a pulley system, leaving her suspended above the warehouse floor. Looking down through the iron bars of the suspended cage, Rei is horrified to see the pit directly beneath her, filled with countless writhing black snakes looking up and hissing aggressively. Looking up at her with a sinister, mocking grin, Snake lays out his sadistic ultimatum. "From now on, I'm gonna lower this cage, little by little, every hour. That should give you plenty of time to think about whether you want to answer my questions." Back at the hospital, Gaku's allies burst through the door of his room, with the black-haired leader shouting, "Gaku, we're back!" But they freeze in surprise as they enter the dimly lit room, finding Gaku's hospital bed completely empty, with medical equipment knocked over on the floor. The black-haired ally's face pales in sheer panic as he realizes what has happened, sweating as he exclaims, "Damn it, it was a trap! Gaku's in danger!" A shadowed, battered enemy thug sitting nearby lets out a mocking, bloody chuckle. "Afraid you're too late. By now, your boss is nothing but mincemeat." Enraged by the taunt, Gaku's large, muscular ally steps forward and delivers a crushing punch directly to the thug's face, roaring, "Shut up!" The scene cuts to a title card marking the transition, dramatically displaying the title logo of the manhwa and indicating Chapter 34. Looking out the shattered hospital window, the ally in the neck brace shouts urgently, "Mr. Gaku must have jumped from here and escaped. We need to go find him, hurry!" The group of allies sprints down the dark city streets at full speed, shouting, "This way!" as they search for any sign of Gaku. They run through the quiet alleys, scanning the darkness in a panic while shouting out, "Gaku, where are you?" Suddenly, the leading allies skitter to a halt, their eyes widening in shock as they spot someone standing in the shadows just ahead of them. Emerging from the gloom is Gaku himself, standing shirtless, his body completely covered in fresh cuts and blood. Clutching a blood-stained kitchen knife, he looks back at them with a calm, reassuring smile. Staring at the battered but standing fighter, the ally in the neck brace gasps in complete awe. Incredible, his strength is like a monster's. Surrounding Gaku on the street, where several defeated assassins lie unconscious and bleeding on the pavement, his allies fuss over him. Gaku calmly reassures them. "Don't worry, it's just a scratch. More importantly, where is Hayashi right now?" One of the allies replies, "He's at my place with Ui right now. He should be safe there." Gaku's expression turns grave as he looks back and warns, "No, it's not just Snake. The MIU is after Hayashi too. We need to move him somewhere safer." Meanwhile, their captured enemy thug, standing bound behind them, sneers defiantly, "Stop your pointless struggling. No matter where you hide him, that guy is destined to die." Gaku steps closer to the defiant bound thug, looking him dead in the eye as he demands, "Tell me, who exactly is the big shot backing Snake?" The captured thug grits his teeth and yells back furiously, "You want me to sell out Mr. Snake? In your dreams!" Without hesitating, Gaku's muscular ally delivers a brutal, heavy blow to the side of the thug's face, cutting off his defiance instantly. As blood sprays from the thug's mouth, the ally grabs him by the collar, winding up another punch while threatening, "You better start talking if you don't want a world of pain." The thug spits back defiantly, "Kill me if you've got the guts." Before the fight can escalate further, Gaku reaches out and places a hand on his ally's shoulder, calmly commanding, "Enough, let's get out of here for now. We'll take our time breaking him later." The scene shifts to a quiet, traditional brick building with tiled roofs, peaceful under a starry night sky. Inside the building, a large, muscular ally blocks the exit of a room, raising his hand to stop a tattooed man in a white suit who is trying to push past, warning him, "Stay put." A close-up shows a hand securely snapping a heavy padlock onto a wooden sliding door, locking the tattooed man inside the room. Gaku and his allies walk into a spacious room where Hayashi and another ally are waiting. Hayashi looks up in relief, calling out, "Mr. Gaku." One of the allies updates Gaku on the situation. "The MIU was just here. We hid in the well outside and barely managed to avoid being seen, but..." Listening to the update, the ally in the neck brace grits his teeth in frustration, muttering, "I knew it. They really are in cahoots." Looking down with a somber and guilty expression, Hayashi addresses Gaku. "Mr. Gaku, I'm grateful you protected me. But if things keep going like this, everyone else is going to get dragged down with me. I can't cause you all any more trouble. I'm fully prepared to be arrested." Smiling warmly, Gaku places a reassuring hand on Hayashi's bandaged shoulder and declares confidently, "Don't worry, as long as I'm breathing, I won't let them lay a single finger on you." Sitting down on a couch, Gaku allows his ally to rewrap the bandages around his muscular torso. The ally advises him, "I've rewrapped your bandages for now, but please don't do anything else reckless. If those wounds open up again, it won't be a laughing matter." Gaku softly replies, "Yeah." Another ally steps forward, looking seriously at Gaku as he asks, "Hey, Gaku, I doubt the MIU or Snake are just gonna back down like this. What's our next move?" Gaku looks back with a sharp, determined gaze, replying, "You're right. The safest place right now is probably Mr. Guda's house. I'll have Ray escort him there." A smartphone screen vibrates intensely in a hand, displaying an incoming call from unknown caller 090XXXXXX as a buzz sound effect echoes through the quiet room. Gaku, with bandages wrapped around his head and cheek, holds the phone up to his ear, his face turning grim as a raspy voice on the other end greets him, asking if he knows who it is. On the other end of the line, Snake holds his phone with a sadistic, scarred grin, taking pleasure in delivering his chilling message. "We've got Ray Amano over here." Gaku's eyes widen with absolute fury, his face contorting in pure rage as he grips the phone and roars, "Snake, what the hell did you do to Ray?" Sitting comfortably in a leather chair inside his concrete hideout, Snake exhales slowly and replies smoothly on the phone, "I haven't done anything yet, but I can't guarantee what'll happen from here on out." Snake's loyal subordinate stands guard nearby as Snake continues talking into his phone, letting out a cruel chuckle. Suddenly, the heavy iron cage suspended in the air drops with a terrifying mechanical clank, causing a terrified Ray inside to scream out in panic, "Ah!" Below the swaying cage, several large snakes hiss aggressively, their jaws open. On the phone, Snake sneers sadistically, "Did you hear that? In 1 hour, my prize snakes are going to show your woman a whole lot of affection." Gaku sits shirtless on a leather couch, his jaw clenched as he makes a fierce promise. "If you so much as touch a single hair on Ray's head, I'll drag every last one of you down to hell. I mean it." Unfazed by Gaku's rage, Snake looks down at his pit of writhing serpents and offers a cold ultimatum. So we've both got hostages. If you've got the guts, come see me. We'll release them and have a nice long chat." Glaring with icy determination, Gaku delivers his final answer over the line, "You're on." As Gaku lowers his phone, his black-haired ally wearing a neck brace clutches his fist and gasps in shock. "Are you saying Miss Ray got captured by Snake?" Gaku looks down, his face shrouded in shadow as he prepares for the upcoming confrontation, explaining, "Yeah, we're gonna get Ray back in exchange for Hyodo." His large, muscular ally steps forward with a worried expression, warning Gaku, "We're heading straight into their turf. There's no way this ends with just a simple trade." Gaku looks back with a grim but completely resolute gaze, admitting, "Yeah, it's going to be a fight to the death. Either we take out Snake or he takes us out, but I'd gladly lay down my life for one of our own." Inspired by Gaku's fierce loyalty, the black-haired ally in the neck brace raises his fists and shouts enthusiastically, "You're damn right, let's crush Snake and get Miss Ray back." The muscular ally looks at Gaku with unwavering respect and states firmly, "You saved my life, I'd follow you to hell and back." Gaku places a reassuring hand on the large ally's shoulder, giving him a warm smile as he says, "I appreciate it, but there's a different job I need you to handle." Gaku looks at his ally seriously, giving him strict instructions. "Take Hayashi to this address, tell them my name, and have Mr. Guda hide him. The way things are right now, he's the only one who can protect Hayashi." Patting his ally's shoulder gently, Gaku adds, "Don't worry, we'll be fine. As long as Hayashi is alive, we still have room to negotiate." Acting quickly, Gaku's allies pull their captured tattooed enemy, Hyodo, aggressively off the floor by his jacket, barking, "On your feet." Gaku crouches down in front of the bound and battered Hyodo, commanding him coldly, "We're going to talk to Snake, so lead the way." Hyodo spits blood and looks up at Gaku with a mocking, defiant sneer, laughing, "Have a chat? More like you're marching to your deaths." Without hesitation, Gaku unleashes a lightning-fast backhand slap across Hyodo's face, snapping his head to the side as he barks, "Shut up, just show us the way." Under the dim twilight sky outside the concrete warehouse, several of Snake's thugs lounge around, smoking cigarettes and chatting casually. Their conversation halts abruptly as they spot a group marching toward them. It is Gaku and his allies, escorting the bound Hyodo right down the center of the street. One of Snake's main thugs steps forward aggressively, pointing his finger as he yells out, "Hey, you bastards, hurry up and release Mr. Hyodo!" Gaku continues walking forward, his gaze dead ahead and filled with terrifying intensity, as he says flatly, "You're in the way. Move!" Snake's thugs freeze in their tracks, sweating and visibly shaken by the overwhelming aura of pure danger radiating from Gaku. From behind Gaku, the bound Hyodo raises his head and shouts to his allies, "Mr. Snake will deal with them personally. The rest of you, don't lift a finger. Let them inside." Guided by Gaku's firm hand, the group marches past the hesitant thugs and enters the dark concrete warehouse, with the suspended cage hanging high above them. As they step inside, a thug quickly pulls down the heavy metal rolling shutter behind them with a loud rattle. One of Gaku's allies smirks, remarking, "Blocking their own escape route for us. How thoughtful of them." Hearing the commotion below, Rei grabs the iron bars of her cage, tears streaming down her face as she cries out in desperate relief, "Gaku, help me!" Standing in the center of the spacious, dimly lit warehouse, Gaku and his allies face the leather chair where Snake sits, while Rei remains trapped in the cage, hanging far overhead. Gaku stares ahead, his eyes narrowing to slits as his anger reaches a boiling point. Snake slowly spins his chair around to face them, crossing his legs and gesturing widely with a sadistic smirk. "Welcome, you rats, to my snake's nest." Meanwhile, at Guda's peaceful traditional estate, Hayashi sits on a couch beside Gaku's large ally, both of them waiting in tense silence. An elegant woman with black hair, wearing a long black dress with a thigh-high slit, enters the quiet room carrying a tray with teacups. The woman places a cup of tea in front of the large ally, who politely bows his head, saying, "Thank you very much." She smiles warmly and replies, "Since you're friends of Tojo, please make yourselves at home. If you need anything at all, just let me know. I'll be sure to pass your message along to Mr. Guda." Looking up at her with a mixture of hope and anxiety, Gaku's ally explains, "We were hoping Mr. Guda could shelter us here." In a separate room, a hand holds a printed photo of Hayashi wearing his glasses and suit. A voice states, "I've shown those two to their room and posted guards outside." Holding the photograph, the bald, bearded boss, Mr. Guda, looks on with a calculating smile beside the black-haired woman, noting, "That guy Tojo delivered something pretty useful this time. The fact that Ward Mayor Samea is frantically searching for this man means he's sitting on some seriously dangerous material. If we play this card, we can negotiate with the Ward Mayor regarding the redevelopment project." The black-haired woman looks slightly worried as she informs Guda, "It seems Tojo and his men are going to settle things with Snake tonight. One of them might end up dead." Guda's expression turns stern as he looks back and commands sharply, "Send Muto to stop them. I need Tojo to keep handling the dirty work for us. It'll be a problem if he dies now. Keep him alive, and Snake too." Back inside the dark warehouse, Gaku steps forward and demands fiercely, "Release Rei!" Snake sneers mockingly from his leather chair, retorting, Hey, are you really in a position to be making demands? Right now, you're the one who should shut up and obey me." With a sinister grin, Snake raises his hand and confidently snaps his fingers to initiate his next move. The pulley system suddenly clanks violently, dropping the iron cage a few feet closer to the pit. Rei screams in absolute terror, "Gya!" as she is brought dangerously close to the slithering floor below. Beneath the dangling cage, a dark, writhing mass of dozens of black snakes squirm and coil over one another, hissing aggressively in anticipation. Clinging to the metal bars of her cage and looking down at the terrifying pit of serpents, a tearful Rei begs in a trembling voice, "Gaku, help me!" Gaku holds a sharp tactical knife flush against the throat of the captured and battered Hyodo, demanding with fierce determination, "Release her or I'll slit his throat right now." But Snake, watching with cold amusement from behind, merely sneers at his defeated subordinate, mockingly saying, "What a pathetic sight. After failing again and again, you end up as the enemy's hostage? Hey, Hyodo, how are you going to pay for this mess?" Without showing a hint of hesitation or mercy, Gaku forcefully stabs the knife into Hyodo's neck with a sharp squelching sound, causing a bright spray of fresh blood to erupt from the fatal wound as Hyodo's eyes widen in agony. With a heavy thud, Hyodo's lifeless body collapses face down onto the concrete floor of the warehouse in a rapidly expanding pool of dark blood. Gaku stands calmly over him with the bloodstained knife in hand, surrounded by his grim-faced allies. Snake looks down at the corpse of his former subordinate with a cold, merciless grin, speaking as if Hyodo's life meant absolutely nothing to him. "You can repay the rest of your debt to Mr. Snake in the next life." Acting on silent orders, Snake's scar-faced subordinate bends down and grabs the dead man's ankles with a firm grip, preparing to drag the body away like garbage. The scarred subordinate drags Hyodo's heavy corpse toward the edge of the pit, while several large, venomous snakes begin to hiss aggressively, raising their heads from the shadows below in anticipation of their meal. With a dull splash of motion, Hyodo's body is tossed mercilessly into the deep pit, landing right in the middle of a massive, writhing pile of hundreds of black serpents. The aggressive snakes immediately swarm the body, wrapping their dark, scaly coils around Hyodo's neck and face while opening their fangs to hiss viciously, preparing to tear the flesh from his bones. Disgusted and appalled by this display of absolute cruelty, Gaku stares directly at Snake and demands with a low, tense voice, "Is this how you treat your own comrades?" Snake's face is partially shrouded in shadow as his twisted smile widens, responding to Gaku's question with a ruthless philosophy. Comrades? This world is survival of the fittest. You either eat or get eaten. That's all there is to it.
Leaning back comfortably in his leather armchair and gesturing casually with his hand, Snake offers a chilling proposition. But if you hand over that reporter, I might just let you all walk away.
A close-up reveals Gaku's icy, unyielding gaze. Shadows fall across his face as he rejects the offer outright, promising, "Sorry, but I'm not accepting a deal like that. The only outcome I'll accept is you releasing her right before you become snake food yourself." In a sudden burst of movement, Gaku charges forward with incredible speed, gripping his bloody knife tightly as he lunges straight toward Snake. Before Gaku can reach his target, Snake's white-haired subordinate steps in to block him with a fierce glare, yelling, "You've got some nerve." Undeterred, Snake smiles lazily from his chair, turning it into a twisted wager. "Then let's make a game of it. If you can beat him, I'll let the girl go." Well, care to try your luck? Seeing the opponent step up, Gaku's large and muscular ally balls his hand into a massive fist and steps forward, declaring fiercely, "I'll take him on. A punk like him hasn't earned the right to fight our boss one-on-one." Snake's expression suddenly turns incredibly dark and monstrous, veins bulging on his forehead as he snarls with absolute authority, "I despise taking orders from anyone." With a sinister grin, Snake raises his hand and casually gestures with a flick of his finger, signaling his loyal thugs to take action as Rei watches helplessly from her hanging iron cage. Gaku raises his hand to stop his allies, stepping forward as he prepares to fight the white-haired subordinate himself, stating calmly, "Stand down, I'm ready, bring it on." Seeing the white-haired enemy slip heavy brass knuckles onto his fingers, Gaku's black-haired ally in the neck brace points in anger and protests, "Hey, wearing those in a one-on-one fight is completely unfair." The white-haired subordinate cracks his knuckles, looking down on them with supreme confidence as he retorts sneeringly, "You should be thankful that Mr. Snake isn't just slaughtering you all right here and now." Stamping his heavy combat boot hard against the ground, the subordinate snarls with deep resentment, "Besides, don't give me that crap about fairness after you took out so many of our boys. You're paying that debt in full today." The subordinate initiates the battle with a lightning-fast high kick, but Gaku shows incredible reflexes, effortlessly leaning back to dodge the sweeping blow. Following up instantly, the white-haired thug throws a powerful wind-cutting punch, but Gaku's sharp instincts allow him to slip the strike by a fraction of an inch. Watching the intense and deadly exchange from the sidelines, Gaku's allies yell out in deep concern, crying, "Mr. Gaku!" As Gaku's allies try to step forward, they are suddenly blocked by two of Snake's elite, towering thugs who step in front of them with crossed arms and intimidating glares. From his comfortable seat, Snake wiggles his finger mockingly at Gaku's group, issuing a cold final threat. "This is your final warning. Don't interrupt the show." Understanding the danger his friends are in, Gaku glances over his shoulder and barks a stern command to his allies, "Stay out of this. Leave him to me." Frustrated and worried, Gaku's black-haired ally tries to surge forward anyway, but is held back by his companion as he shouts out in desperation, but capitalizing on Gaku's split-second distraction, the white-haired subordinate unleashes a devastating punch enhanced by his brass knuckles, burying it deep into Gaku's stomach. The sheer force of the metallic blow causes Gaku's eyes to widen in shock as a massive spray of dark blood erupts from his mouth. Smiling triumphantly, the white-haired subordinate stands over a wounded Gaku, raising his bloodied brass knuckles as he boasts, "What makes you think a punk like you is worthy of challenging Mr. Snake?" As the title card for Chapter 36 appears against a dark background, a heavily winded Gaku hunches over, clutching his chest tightly as a painful cough escapes his throat. Slowly raising his head, Gaku's lips curl into a terrifying, wild grin. An aura of a ferocious, roaring tiger manifests behind him as he declares with renewed bloodlust, "All right, I'm going all out from here on." Unfazed by the dramatic shift in atmosphere, the white-haired subordinate laughs mockingly, shouting, "Huh? Are you saying you weren't serious until now? Don't make me laugh." With a loud battle cry, the subordinate charges forward, throwing another heavy brass knuckle punch aimed directly at Gaku's face. This time, Gaku doesn't dodge. He meets the strike head-on, launching a powerful punch of his own that collides violently with the enemy's fist, sending blood splattering into the air. Gaku's eyes burn with intense focus as he swiftly clenches his fist again, immediately preparing to unleash his next strike. The two fighters clash in the center of the warehouse, trading incredibly fast and heavy blows that create shockwaves of dust and blood as Gaku's allies watch from a distance. Snake sits calmly in his chair, a sadistic and entertained expression crossing his scarred face as he mutters, "Oh, how amusing." Both warriors charge at each other with explosive speed once more, their heavy footsteps echoing through the concrete warehouse as they prepare for a direct collision. Their fists clash with a sickening metallic crunch. The sheer force of the impact causes a violent explosion of blood to spray outward between them. Looking on in absolute horror, Gaku's black-haired ally explains the suicidal nature of the clash, sweating as he notes, punching a guy with brass knuckles barehanded is a great way to completely wreck your hand. But to the white-haired subordinate's absolute shock, Gaku's bloodied fist remains perfectly intact. The subordinate gasps in disbelief, thinking, "You've got to be kidding me." Sweat pours down the subordinate's face as he realizes the monstrous nature of his opponent, staring at him in growing dread while wondering, "This guy? Doesn't he feel any pain?" Gaku casually raises his blood-soaked hand and points his index finger directly at the trembling subordinate, taunting him with a simple mocking, "Hey." Curling his bloody hand into a mocking invite, Gaku's eyes are completely hidden in shadow as his twisted grin widens, daring the thug, "Bring it on." Feeling insulted and deeply humiliated, the white-haired subordinate grits his teeth in pure fury, clutching his chest and snarling, "Ch, you arrogant little brat." Gaku's eyes glow with a terrifying, ethereal light from the shadows as he leans forward, his face twisted into a mad, thrill-seeking smile. "Let's put our lives on the line here." With blinding speed, Gaku launches himself high into the air, turning his body to deliver a devastating overhead kick straight toward his opponent. The kick lands with bone-shattering force directly on the subordinate's face, unleashing a massive, violent spray of blood as the impact sends the white-haired thug reeling. The white-haired subordinate, refusing to back down as fresh blood droplets spray through the air, turns to face his opponent and yells with fierce determination, "I'm not done yet!" Gaku stands in a steady, low-combat stance, completely unfazed and ready for the next move. With a grunt of effort, the white-haired thug lunges forward and throws a heavy punch, while Gaku maintains a calm, focused gaze, easily tracking the trajectory of the incoming strike. As the white-haired thug's fist cuts through the air, Gaku moves with sharp reflexes, raising his arm to block the incoming strike with effortless precision. Capitalizing on the block, Gaku swiftly unleashes a powerful counterstrike of his own, landing a heavy blow straight to the white-haired subordinate's face that sends a sudden spray of dark blood into the air. The immense force of Gaku's counterpunch causes the white-haired subordinate's head to whip backward, his face contorting in pain as blood splatters across the floor. Before his opponent can even begin to recover, Gaku's hand moves with blinding speed, firmly grabbing the white-haired subordinate's forehead to lock his head in place. With brutal efficiency, Gaku pulls the subordinate down and drives a devastating knee strike directly into his face, unleashing a massive explosion of fresh blood. Gaku casually reaches up to touch the back of his neck, looking down on his battered opponent with a cold, intimidating stare as he taunts him. "What's the matter? Is that all you've got?" Clutching his bleeding, broken face with his gloved hand, the white-haired subordinate grits his teeth in pure humiliation, veins bulging on his forehead as he snarls, "Damn it, I underestimated you." Driven by pure fury, the white-haired thug charges forward once more, throwing his weight into a desperate punch while screaming, "You bastard, die!" Gaku shows incredible agility and reflexes, effortlessly ducking low to let the thug's wild, sweeping punch pass harmlessly over his head. Slipping the attack perfectly, Gaku counters instantly with a devastating punch of his own, burying his fist into the subordinate's bloodied face. The white-haired subordinate staggers backward, completely dazed and off balance as thick blood splatters from his heavily damaged face. Wasting no time, Gaku winds up his fist, his gaze sharp and terrifying as he prepares to deliver the final decisive blow of the battle. Gaku unleashes a massive punch with incredible power, smashing it directly into the subordinate's face and causing blood to spray violently outward. The sheer impact of the punch sends the white-haired subordinate flying backward through the air, crashing heavily onto the concrete warehouse floor. Gaku's allies watch in awe as Snake observes the final moments of the fight from his leather armchair in the foreground. Watching the spectacular finish from his seat, Snake's twisted smile widens in the shadows as he comments with sadistic amusement, "You're putting on quite the show, aren't you?" Thrilled and deeply relieved by the victory, Gaku's black-haired ally in the neck brace smiles brightly, exclaiming in absolute awe to his companion, "Mr. Gaku is incredible. He's God tier." Lying flat on his back in a growing pool of blood, the defeated white-haired subordinate lets out a weak, painful groan. Gaku stands tall as a dark silhouette, looking down at his fallen foe. A close-up reveals the white-haired thug's battered, blood-smeared face. He struggles to say something, but his eyes begin to roll back as his body trembles, losing his grip on consciousness. With a final shudder, the white-haired subordinate falls completely limp and unresponsive onto the cold floor. Gaku stands victoriously over him, his hands bloodied but his posture steady and triumphant.